Oh,
Like I just said, had a vivid dream this weekend, and Charlie came to me and he told me that he was betrayed. And so for me, you don't have to believe that, but I do believe that.
This looks interesting, Sitch. Oh, look, she's going to sing a song.
We know Israel did 9/11. Dirty Tuesday, they did 9/10 too.
What?
They put an end to my beloved friend. I'll close my eyes, fall asleep, and see him again. Charlie, who did this to you? Some Utah Mormon or a penny grabbing Jew. Charlie, who planned to take your life? A foreign country, your team, and your wife. Charlie, who did this to you? A transferee lover or Netanyahu? Charlie, I know it's not what it seems. I'll tell the world what you tell me in my dream.
I don't know who exactly it is that betrayed him, but I also felt in the dream that it is soon going to be revealed, that it's actually inevitable that it is going to be revealed, that there is nothing and no one that is going to stop the truth from coming out.
The FBI says he is a liberal fraud. From text messages and Discord logs, they cover up all the evidence. But in my dreams, I have the sixth sense. Charlie, who did this to you? A college dropout or a greedy
Frankus.
Ooh, Charlie, who planned to take your life? A foreign country, your team, and your wife. Charlie, who did this to you? A lone wolf patsy for Netanyahu. Charlie, I know it's not what it seems. I'll tell the world what you tell me in my dream.
What the hell was that, Sitch? What?
Wow.
What the
Beautiful.
heck did we just watch?
We watched
That was
a
crazy.
spiritual experience. Okay. I
That
feel
was
like I've been
crazy.
transformed. I've been reborn as a new person.
There's a lot of racism in this song. This song is crazy racist.
No.
What the heck?
Why would Candace Owens sing this song? That's the real question.
Oh, I guess she's just a racist. I guess that's what's going on. I can't believe she wrote such a song.
I know.
What insanity here.
Mhm,
Is
mhm.
this going to be in the deposition? Is this going to come up in the court case?
This will be played for a jury in the, the defamation.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Well, obviously Zero Fucks made that song and made the video. So
Beautiful. Zero
yes,
Fucks.
yes. Amazing job. Amazing job. Beautiful piece of art. So a little bit racist, but that's okay. I think, I think the memes are worth it. So what are we talking about today, Sitch?
Today we're watching Hasan was on Triggernometry.
Yeah. Yeah. What happened here?
What do
Did
you
he
mean?
bring
what
the
happened?
shock collar and put it around the boy's balls? Is that what was going on here? Do you see him reach out of frame and grab something, and then the boys are like wincing a little? Oh, don't ask that question. Don't ask about the dog. Don't ask about the shock collar.
Yes, much to our disappointment, there was no question about the dog shock collar. Can you believe that?
Right. Yeah.
What?
And they didn't
Wow.
even have the decency to edit out his ums. They could have got this video down to an hour if they just edited out all of Hasan's ooh,
Makes him seem smarter. Isn't it better to keep him going?
Communism.
That's the new. Yeah, that's the new
What? I
lazy
can't
child
stand
video.
it. I can't stand.
Communism.
He can't do one sentence without 3 ahs. What's up with that?
It's funny because people have speculated. They've defended Hasan. Okay, the
Mhm.
Hasan Simps have said the reason
He
that
got hit
Hasan
in the
talks
head.
so slow, the reason he adds all those verbal tics is because he's reading the chat. He has to look over and read the chat.
There is no chat in this.
There's no chat.
Destroyed.
chat.
Fucking destroyed.
Yes.
There's no chat
Actually,
here. He's just
here-
sitting
wait.
across from 2 guys.
I have a theory. Okay. Hasan is wearing a Google Glass and he has to chat in his glasses. He can't
Oh my
live
God.
his life.
That's brilliant.
Yes. Hasan cannot live his life. He cannot make any choice, any decision without chat. All right. He has to
Right.
always look over to chat. He'll be in the grocery store and he's deciding between cereal. And he's like, which cereal should I get, chat? Let me know. Should I get the Frosted Flakes or the Honey Nut Cheerios?
It's so sad. It's so sad. So you watch this video. I
did.
watched a little bit of the video. I got to admit, I tapped out on the uhs and ahs and also the zero pushback. I started fast forwarding just to the part where Kissin and the other guy speaks, and I just they weren't asking interesting questions or anything. So I'm like, this is a nightmare.
There is pushback. There's pushback. We're gonna watch like 30 minutes of the conversation. There is pushback in it, not, and I agree, not like as much as I would prefer in a conversation like this. I would also prefer that certain elements about Hasan's views be brought up. Specifically, the one question that I really think Hasan needs to answer for, besides the dog collar thing, obviously, is the fact that, and if someone's interviewing Hasan, they should play this clip. You have the clip of Hasan talking to the Second Thought podcast people, and you have the guy who was pretending to be an Iraqi doctor, but it turns out he lives in Sweden. You have this guy talking about how Hasan is
he's
part of the
pipeline.
Yes, the radicalization pipeline, where Hasan and Second Thought will suck in the children with sweet siren calls of communism and socialism and making it sound appealing. And then that's going to suck them down the pipeline to the more violent, radical, extremist socialists who want to overthrow everything. And Hasan agrees with this. He says, yes, that's great. That's exactly what I'm doing. And then you splice that with, well, here's those same people like a year before.
On October 7th.
Right. Where they're talking about how October 7th was based and awesome. And it was great that Hamas killed all those civilians and took hostages and everything. And it was so awesome. And you say, well, why are you supporting these people? And then when Hasan tries to weasel out of it, you say, well, wait a minute, Hasan, you were in the chat in that very stream. You can't pretend. Here it is. Here's them giving you a shout out when you're literally in the chat in that stream. You can't pretend like you didn't understand this was their position.
Yeah, that would be good. That would go viral. That would be huge viral clip. Why didn't they do that? That would be their viral clip.
They probably didn't know about that, I would imagine. But
they should watch our show.
They should.
Yeah. They could have asked us. We would have told them right away. So
there you go. Every person who interviews Hasan, I'd say every person who interviews anyone should always contact me and Adam.
Yes,
first.
of course. We'll give you
and we'll be like, okay, here's the questions you want to ask these people.
Yeah.
That's the way it should work.
We're not going to play the huge heavy sigh in the beginning. Like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm doing this interview.
If you want, I was gonna skip past it. So
is there? Okay, we can skip past it. It's funny. They let him off. They totally let him off the hook. I think the sigh disarmed them. They were like, oh my God, he's a retard. we can't actually go after him.
It's like, okay, you're saying that they saw Hasan, he looked kind of like a retarded puppy. And you're like,
Yeah, they
Be a little
felt bad
nice.
for him.
They felt bad. I gotcha.
Look,
That's
I
that makes
felt bad for no bullshit. I still feel bad. So,
sense.
well, I can't help myself. You
Oh,
can't,
Adam.
you can't beat up on the mentally disabled. Okay. It's not fair. It's not fair.
No bullshit's my friend, but he is mentally disabled, so you can't beat up on him.
I've, oh man, come on.
Okay.
I do feel bad. Anyway,
Okay. Well,
we can move.
let's watch this. Let's
We
jump
can
into
move
this here.
on.
America's the most powerful nation on the planet, but China is getting up there, right? Let's see if China had, if in a hypothetical, if China had encircled the United States of America, and let's say in this hypothetical, I'm like very clearly someone who is going to China and talking to the CPC and saying like, we want Chinese intervention in this country because I hate Donald Trump, please.
Now, right now, I'd be formulating my response. Why is China ascendant right now? What did China implement that made their economic woes go away? Was it market incentives? Perhaps?
Yes.
Don't you think that would be a good comeback?
Well,
I'm not holding
it's-
my breath that they say anything like that, though.
It's so weird because yeah, with China, like he says that because they ask him, they're like, "What's
They were
like the
fucking
communist?"
starving.
Right. They ask him like, "What's the communist country that has implemented communism to the best way that you would see fit?" And usually, when I hear other socialists answer this question, they always point to I don't know some like small socialist country no one's ever fucking heard of that existed for
Norway.
like 5 years. Or yeah, they either point to one of the Nordic countries that are not socialist, or they point to some country that existed for like 5 minutes somewhere. They're like, well, this was the perfect Shangri-La. And it's weird because he points to China, and it's like, you're right. You have this combination problem of, well, China had to adopt a bunch of capitalist market principles in order to not suck. And then on top of it, they have to be an authoritarian dictatorship. So this is your best example here.
Yeah, and there's tons of poor people in China. There's tons of homeless people in China. The China boys go over this on their show all the time. China just hides it. China hides it when the white monkeys, and they call white Westerners that they use to sell their propaganda white monkeys. When the white monkeys come over to sell the Chinese propaganda to the West, they hide all of that shit. Do you think they hid that shit when Hasan went over there? Abso-fucking-lutely.
Obviously.
Abso-fucking-lutely. This is why he had to check in with them when they went anywhere, so that the little CCP guys could run around and chase the homeless people away. Get everyone out of here. All the drug addicts, get them out of here. Get them out of here.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly what's going on. And dumbass here falls for it and brings it right back, dumps it in Triggernometry's lap, and they don't even ask him about it.
Yeah. And it's, well, the context that he's talking about in this clip here, which is also so baffling, is he's making an excuse for China being authoritarian and not allowing free speech. He's like, well,
what? Oh my
because
god,
that's what he's talking about. That's why he's saying, well, like hypothetically, if China had surrounded America, okay, and was controlling it, like, or was like, a threat to it, don't you think America would be anti-free speech? Here, listen, this is what he's talking about. That's why he says this.
Talking to the United States of America, and dynamic because America's the most powerful nation on the planet, but China is getting up there, right? Let's see if China had, if in a hypothetical, if China had encircled the United States of America, and let's say in this hypothetical, I'm like very clearly someone who is going to China and talking to the CPC and saying like, we want Chinese intervention in this country because I hate Donald Trump, please. I think in that regard, America would probably treat me in the exact same way, if not in a worse way, ironically enough.
But would
And he's comparing
That's
that. So first of all,
crazy.
it's like fucking absurd too. Number one, and in America we have a Bill of Rights, a Constitution, we have laws that protect us, and all this other stuff. I don't care if China's taken over Canada or whatever, right? That's number one. I mean, number two, he's talking about a war situation. Number three, the idea that even the hypothetical, oh, imagine if America was surrounded by China. China's surrounded by America right now. China's looking around like, oh my God, we're surrounded by America on all sides. We're about to be invaded by America and taken over. What fucking world is he living in? What is he talking about? China right now is gearing up to invade a foreign country, and the rest of the world's like, can you not do that? Can you not do that? But Hasan in his America bad brain rot is like, oh, China's surrounded on all sides by America.
Yeah, that's bullshit. China did the great leap forward, tried to implement communism. It failed miserably. They were all starving to death. And they introduced market principles from the West to actually turn it around. That's why their economy is doing better now.
Mm-hmm.
They still have a huge demographic problem because they did the one-child policy when their country was falling apart. Right. And now they're fucked. They're totally fucked. So all of this stuff he's talking about, I don't think he understands the reality of the situation.
Well, he's already made up his mind. His mind is communism is the way. So he just has to invent a million excuses for why any problem China has or any criticism China has is actually America's fault. So if China doesn't have free speech and is authoritarian, well, that's also America's fault because America is being mean to China. That's why when he was in China and the communist secret police came over to look at his phone because they thought they saw a flash of a Winnie the Pooh meme or something. And they're like, well, we got to make sure that we're not going to arrest this guy because he's got a Winnie the Pooh meme on his phone. That's somehow America's fault. If America was just a little bit nicer to China, well, then they wouldn't have to not have free speech.
So we could change things
Mm-hmm.
if we just bend over for China.
Of course.
No thanks. No thank you.
They throw you in jail for trying to run democratically. I don't think personally that they would.
Oh, they absolutely would, I think. You think the American government would not throw me in jail if I was in a comparable scenario where China had encircled the United States of America and I was saying, I want to run democratically. I want to be, and I'm demanding that China intervene. I think they would do the same, if not worse, for sure. Because like I said, it's all a matter of the conditions on the ground. With respect to Eugene Debs, as I was talking about before, America felt threatened even at that time.
You're talking about wartime, though.
Yeah.
This is not a fair comparison, in my opinion, because wartime is wartime. It's about survival.
Oh my God. These guys flew out to Los Angeles to do this interview with him. I'm losing all respect for trigonometry.
Oh.
That's my city in the background.
Right.
Yeah. That's my beautiful city.
Mm,
They're from England.
right.
One of the 48 laws of power, make them come to you. This is a power play by Hasan. Like, not only am I going to make you fly out to me, we're going to get a suite that overlooks the city so everyone knows that I made you fly out to me. I am the king.
I think you're being a little too hard. I think you're being too.
You think I'm being too harsh?
I think you're being a little too
Look,
harsh.
you might not realize it consciously,
Mm-hmm.
but you realize it unconsciously.
Maybe.
Look at it. You think if they had the home turf advantage, they probably would have made this interview much harder. They're like, holy shit, we came all of this way. We came thousands and thousands of miles. If he walks out of the interview, we're fucked. We got to be nice. We can't ask him about the dog collar question 1.
I don't know. I don't buy it. I don't buy it.
He took an Uber for 5 minutes to get to this interview.
Mm-hmm.
Britain suspended elections during wartime, right? Like
America didn't actually. They did. They even during the Civil War.
But Britain did. America wasn't in war in the same.
Actually, I'm looking because their previous conversation. I don't know like when the filming were for this. Their previous conversation was with Sam Harris, and it's in the same studio. So they might have done like a bunch of different interviews in this studio with a bunch of different people that were.
Oh, they flew out to Los Angeles to do everyone?
Yeah, maybe. So
okay.
And where the Britain was.
That's why I said during the Civil War.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's fair. But again, it's
People in the chat are comparing me to Candace Owens. Like, oh my God, the conspiracy theories. Look, I didn't write the 48 laws of power. Okay, I just know them.
different. I guess you said something interesting because, I was born in the Soviet Union, so we both have direct experience of socialism in various shapes and forms. You talked about, well, there's positives, and there's negatives. So is there a country that's done socialism the way that you like?
I would say that I am hypercritical of all forms of governance, including the American one. I think that's not a surprise to you guys, right? And in that same vein, I think like there is critiques to apply to all forms of governance, even socialist ones.
Yeah.
And as far as like getting closer to what I think has been relatively successful, because if ultimately the point of government is to improve the material conditions of all people to the best of your ability, it's not always going to be perfect, but when you are getting, I don't know, the poorest people, the poorest of the dispossessed masses out of a situation where they were servile to landed gentry, or they were peasants from an agrarian society, or they were dominated by the landlords, but then ultimately they were able to come into modernity and become like a powerhouse, an industrial powerhouse that is competitive with the largest superpower on the planet. I would say if that's the point of good governance, and I think you guys might agree with me on that, I would say China is probably the closest. And there are still plenty of failures within the Chinese system as well, plenty of issues within the Chinese system as well. But
how were they able to do it so fast? How did they do it so quickly? Do they ask Sitch? Is it coming?
I don't believe they bring up that.
What the
point that you're talking
fuck? What the fuck? What the fuck? They gave up the idea that you could socially engineer human nature, and they just said, "Hey, people are kind of greedy. Let's use that to our own advantage. Let's introduce some market incentives to these people and see if they'll work harder." And they did. They told the farmers, "Look, you can sell all the extra wheat that you grow on the open market. Whatever crop you grow, you can sell the extra from what the government takes on the open market." Guess what they did, Sitch? They're like, "Oh my God, how do I grow extra?"
that's probably the closest I would say to an example that we should follow and lessons that we should learn from. This is something that I talk about quite a bit. Ironically enough, we only utilize some of the
Oh my God. Lessons we should learn from them. They took it from us, you fucker. They took it from us. You fucking idiot.
But Adam, have you considered?
Lessons we could learn, Sitch.
Have you considered, Adam, that China has a train that goes very fast?
Oh my God.
They got the fast train.
This
It goes
is insanity.
It goes
This is insanity.
Meow, 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 meow.
Yeah, they probably used market incentives to get the train fucking built. We decided we were going to do it with government.
They've got a fast train. It goes. Meow.
most repressive elements of Chinese governance here in the United States of America, especially in the second Trump administration, and none of the good stuff. We don't have any high-speed rail. We don't have any even development. There is seemingly nothing to look forward to in America in terms of economic prosperity, in terms of overall health of society, in terms of scientific achievements. And I think a lot of younger people also feel the same.
We have nothing to look forward to in terms of scientific achievements. What? Like right now, the world is on a precipice of everyone doing the AI space race. And Hasan's like, listen, there's nothing's happening right now because of capitalism.
AI is going to be able to design a puppy that stays a puppy forever. What the fuck? We're on the precipice of immortality.
Mm-hmm.
Same way, where they feel like there's nothing to look forward to here. And I'll give you guys an example from the UK. I remember seeing this TikTok of this guy that goes around and is like asking.
I mean, I do kind of agree that the economy's fucked up. I think a lot of people obviously are turning to Nick Fuentes because the economy sucks and there's no way for them to start a family. So I do agree to some extent.
Right. But the thing that's stupid about this, that Hasan's point, is that all these same like cultural and societal issues that people feel, some of them which are because of people's inability to get good jobs and inability to buy a home and all these other things. And some of it is just psychological or cultural in terms of people feeling like they don't have meaning in their life. And a lot of that I think is because of people's inability to have relationships and all these other things. All those problems, they all exist in China too. None of those things
definitely.
none of those things don't exist in China. They actually exist in China more so. People feel more alienated. How do you think people feel, right now? And everyone acknowledges this. Right now, everyone says, oh, social media is making everyone crazy. There's like this kind of group think, and you have to feel like this pressure of you always have to be online, you always have to perform for other people, all this other stuff. It's like that times 1,000 in China, because not only is there a social media that you feel like you have to perform for, you have to literally perform for the government. There's a social media score that the government places on you where it says, well, we don't think that you're a good enough citizen to be able to access these high-speed trains that Hasan's talking about,
Right.
or be able to access these other, like the doctors or these other services that the government is supposed to provide for you.
Yeah, not only that, they have a huge shortage of women because of the one-child policy, and everyone aborted their female babies and had sons. So now the sons have no prospects because they outnumber the girls like 2-1.
Yes, there's some massive sex difference between young males and young females, right? So it's
Right. And you have to be well
market,
off to even get into that dating market. So not only are there few women participants, you got to have money to even court them.
Yes. So the dating market, which people think is bad here, is even worse in China. Because at least here, it's like there's a 50-50 split. All right. In China, there isn't. And then it's just, oh my God.
China aborted all their hoes.
There you go. You need more hoes. Yeah. Yeah.
Come on, that's a joke, Sitch. That one hit.
I know.
Sitch didn't like that joke.
No, I was gonna say something and I forgot. I got distracted by the hose, but it's okay. It's a common occurrence, right? You get distracted by the women.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sometimes.
Young British people, would they serve in the British military? And I am not even remotely nationalistic by any measure. I don't care about those sorts of things. But I think it's important to understand, like, it's a good way to see the temperature of society. And a lot of the young British people were like, no, why would I fight for England? Why would I fight for the UK when it seems like my government's not even fighting for me at all? And
see, the reason a lot of them will say that, though, is it's not so much about that we're not like China in terms of building high-speed rail, although that is a big issue in the UK.
Yes.
I agree with you. The main reason is they feel like they've been let down by mass immigration that's eroding the values of their country. And of course, this is where I think people on the right are very blind to this issue that we already raised, which is wealth inequality and opportunity. Right?
I'm sure there are some people who.
This is a great point, I think, that Constantine makes, which is, Hasan brings up this really stupid point. Oh, well, there's all these British people who don't want to serve in the military. But if you go in China and you ask them, I'm assuming he didn't say this, but obviously the example would make no fucking sense otherwise. Well, if you go to China, you ask them, of course they say they'll serve in the military. Well, there's a couple of key differences here. One,
yeah, I would say.
Which Constantine brought up, which is a good point, which is, yeah, most of the people who generally going to serve in the military, who want to serve in a voluntary capacity, tend to lean to the right. And they're not going to be very happy with all the mass immigration or the perception of mass immigration and the feeling that their country is, being overtaken as no longer their own. So obviously they're not going to want to support that. And that completely destroys Hasan's narrative, because he just wants to say, well, it's because they're not it's because the communism isn't strong enough in England. That's why. Right. But there's another point too, which doesn't really get brought up, which is, okay, how many people, if you went around and you did like a street poll in China, the country where the Chinese government is a one-party system that has a habit of disappearing people and grading people based on their loyalty to the party, and will actually take away social services if they feel you're disloyal. You really think you can go walk around the streets of China and ask people, or do some kind of poll where you ask people in China, like, hey, would you support and would you, be in the military? You really think people are going to give some sort of honest fucking answer to that question?
Hell no.
They're terrified. Of course they're going to say yes. They're not going to say no. They're not going to be like, oh, yeah, no, yeah, of course, yeah, no. And then on top of that, China, because China does have a very large military, it's because a lot of people have to be in the military in China. A lot more people have to choose to be in the military because that's the only way they can fucking get money. They don't even have a job prospect outside of that.
I don't know if China has conscription, but it wouldn't surprise me if they did.
They have. Yeah, I don't know, but they do have a very large standing army because so many people need the money. So many people need the support in his communist utopia.
I saw a documentary where these reporters were going around on the train trying to ask people about the Uyghur genocide. They were like, "What's going on with these Uyghurs?"
Yeah,
And no
obviously.
one would talk to them. No one would
Of
talk to
course
them.
not.
They found one lady that would talk to them because she was just going to sing the party line
Yeah.
and call them a bunch of troublemakers and say that the Uyghurs need attention because they're troublemakers.
Mm.
Yeah. So it's like, who knows if that woman was even working? She might have been working for the state. Who knows?
Yeah. But no,
She admitted that a lot of the Chinese people don't really like to talk about politics because it can get them in trouble. She admitted that in the interview. Like, what the fuck? What the fuck? Can you imagine?
Mhm.
Someone comes up to you on a train and you have to just be like, "Ah, I don't want to say anything because I don't want to get in trouble."
Right.
Yeah, that's probably a great place to live. That's the place you want to live.
Of course. Oh, I remember what I was going to say before I got distracted by the hose. It was
Oh, good.
remember seeing these like insane videos of China's response to COVID. So many people were complaining about the lockdowns in America and how it sucked. You have to wear masks and all this other stuff, which I get. Like that did suck. Don't get me wrong. But then you look at China and it was like they would force the government would barricade apartments. They would not let people leave
I
their
know.
own apartments. There was videos of them putting these sorts of like, I don't even know what you'd call them. They're like these like metal bars across the fucking doorways of people's apartment rooms and buildings. So you could not leave the apartment. There are videos of people who had to try to like scale. There was a video, I don't know if you remember during COVID that like went viral, where a person was trying to scale out their window in China to escape because the government had locked them in the room and then they fell and died. So
Yeah.
it's you had this insane, this is the communist, the closest thing that Hasan can point to. This is the greatest thing that we can point to in terms of the socialist dream. This government, the government that, by the way, lied about their death count. Remember that? Remember how China was lying?
They lie about everything. They lie about everything.
Of course. They were lying about the mass number of people that were dying under COVID. And the only reason people found out about it was because there was like millions of phones that had suddenly, that were like,
You're right.
that had been disconnected for no reason. Suddenly they just, the people that were using all their cell phones, they just fucking vanished. Isn't
So
that
sad.
interesting?
So sad.
The country that there was a woman who was accusing a politician of sexual assault. So the country grabs her. She disappears for 2 weeks. God knows what happens to her. And then she comes back. She's like, I was mistaken. I was not sexually assaulted by this famous politician. And Hasan, the feminist, is defending this shit because he's such a fucking hypocrite. These people just hate America so much that fucking all they care about.
Yeah, they hate America because they're not famous enough. That's the reason why they hate America. That's what disgusts me more than anything. Is Hasan just he's got a lot, all right, but it's not enough. It's not enough. He wants to be a full-blown celebrity. He wants to be known to everyone. He wants to be able to walk down the street and everybody recognize him. A crowd forms around him. They're like, "Oh my God, Hasan, our savior." It's exactly what he wants.
Oh,
and he hates the America that's not going to give that to him.
Of course. He's the overproduced elite. Exactly.
Yeah.
And this Sam wanted me to bring this up too. This is a good point. I don't know if you've seen this, that they're like, because Japan was telling China like, hey, you should not invade Taiwan, because if you do, maybe we'll join forces with America and we'll try to stop you.
Oh my
and just
God.
Japan like saying that made China throw a fucking hissy fit and a shit fit. And they've actually, in China, they've blocked all Chinese citizens from being able to fly to Japan for tourism purposes.
Really? They cut him off for tourism, huh?
Yes. So
that is scary. When did that happen?
Recently.
Really?
A couple weeks ago or something. So Hasan over here, China, defender of freedom, blah, blah, blah. The government, just because one government said, hey, don't invade another country, China has now said, well, you literally can't, as a private citizen, fly to this country that's pretty close just for tourism purposes. You can't just fly there to have a good time anymore. Okay,
Hasan is in favor of China invading Taiwan. He said as much. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when China invades Taiwan, can we put Hasan under arrest?
Well, you know that when China attacks Taiwan and it's fucking horrible, he's going to backtrack and be like, "Oh, I'm not saying they should have done blah 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 blah." He's not going to stand by any of these convictions. He's going to just completely backtrack
So
and melt
sad.
away. Yes, but and there was like a video of some news station that was like going around asking Chinese tourists on the streets how they felt about the Chinese government in this action, like in other countries. And it's just like the same thing. They all refuse to comment. They all would run away. None of them will dare ever speak anything about politics publicly.
Because they're
This is-
terrified.
This is the country that Hasan is saying, "Oh, they do such a good job here. So amazing, so wonderful."
Yeah, and he's like, these people should be terrified because of America.
Yeah.
What a dumbass.
Who feel that way, of course, but
Well, think about this, Hasan.
But
Right?
even
Hold on,
with
let me
the-
just finish
okay,
the point.
go ahead.
Like, stereotypically speaking, is it left of center people or right of center people that are going to go and fight for their country? Typically, it's going to be right of center people because of the mindset that they have, right?
Look, Hasan is totally confused by this. What?
It's a good pause.
What?
What?
What? That doesn't make sense. I thought it was the left wingers in the military. This guy's a fucking idiot. He's read nothing. Well, all he's read is communist theory. So, but that will not give you a good worldview.
Yeah, I mean, no, he knows this is true because he's probably. I'm sure there's a clip of him complaining about this is why the military sucks, is because it's made of a bunch of right wingers. But
Really?
yeah,
Nah.
of course. But because it hurts his argument in this moment, suddenly it's like, oh, wait a minute, what? What are you talking about? That's not true.
I think when push comes to shove, everybody fights for their country because that's why you have to have a draft.
In a war. But what we're
Like Hasan would fight for his country. Get the fuck out of here.
Wait, what he just said doesn't even make. What he said is contradictory. He said, if push comes to shove, everyone will fight for their country. That's why you have to have a draft.
Oh yeah, that
Isn't that-
doesn't make any sense.
Isn't that a contradiction?
Yeah.
talking about in this situation is, will you go and serve in the armed forces? That is going to be a more right-leaning perspective. And those people, we probably, fair to say, know the UK pretty well. Those people are concerned about the national identity of their country. It's like, why would I fight for a country that doesn't feel like my country is the issue for them.
This is where the big
This is a great argument. So
point of division comes for someone like myself. You're Venezuelan originally, your family came from Venezuela, your family came from the USSR. You guys are the most British people I've ever encountered.
I have a very British face.
Yes.
You are correct.
Yeah, exactly. You're British to the bone.
Yeah.
And yet your families also came from countries that were somewhat far away from England, right?
Yeah.
And I'm Turkish. I grew up in Turkey. My whole family lives in Turkey still, with some exceptions. And I would say I'm pretty assimilated to American culture. I grew up being fascinated by American culture. I grew up consuming American pop culture, as do many people all around the world. And what I always find interesting is when people focus on the newcomers, to say that this is actually destroying the social fabric or social cohesion, not realizing that there are a ton of polls conducted on this stuff. I can just speak for America, especially.
The problem with what Hasan is laying out here is that, obviously with the Triggernometry host, when their families moved to the UK, decades ago or whenever it was, their families felt like there was a strong cultural pressure to assimilate to the cultural norms of the UK. And they did do that. They did assimilate. And the difference is that right now, people like Hasan, and there was that clip, of, was it the mayor of Dearborn, Michigan, all these other places, where these people, primarily on the left, but specifically on the far left, are saying, no, you should not have to assimilate to the broader culture. You should not have to assimilate to the majority culture whatsoever. And if you are asked to assimilate in any way to the majority culture, that's somehow fucking racist. And in reality, the perspective of this is because these fucking disgusting pieces of shit like Hasan and those other people, they're the big fucking racist. They're just super racist against white people. And so if you ask someone who they perceive as not white or a lesser white, if they're Latin and still white, that they will say, well, it's racist for you to dare deem that someone who's not white or some other flavor of white should dare assimilate to this broader white culture. Because you know that if Hasan was in a situation and he saw a white person and they moved to a non-white country, obviously Hasan would say, well, that person needs to adapt and assimilate to their culture, and how dare they, act entitled and feel like everyone should cater to their whims.
Yeah, exactly. It's totally racist. Hasan was in downtown Los Angeles when they were doing all of those ICE protests, waving Mexican flags everywhere. Holy fucking shit. I can't believe it.
Right.
I'm like, deport every last one of these fuckers.
Right.
Yeah. Yes, you're exactly right on the money. They're not being forced to assimilate. Everyone's coddling them to death, Hasan included, and saying, look, you don't have to become a part of American culture. American culture is white culture, and it's fucking evil. That's their go-to belief.
Yes.
And it's ridiculous. It's totally ridiculous. Look, we messed up when we decided to say half the country, it doesn't matter if they're racist or not. If you're in a marginalized group, you can be as racist as you fucking want to be. If you're a woman, you can be as sexist as you want to be. It's just, it's bullshit. It's bullshit. We need a universal principle. It's funny that Sargon is always ragging on universal principles now, but I'm like, what the fuck? We need universal principles.
Right.
This is the problem. The problem is the principles aren't being applied universally, and people are saying, this is unfair. I'm opting out of a system that is going to be patently unfair to me, and they should.
Where by the second generation, assimilation is almost complete. And by the third one, it's like virtually impossible to distinguish in terms of performance, educational output, and job performance in general. It's just like everyone becomes American.
That's not true in the UK, though, unfortunately. So if you look at, for example, Islamist radicalization, second and third generation Muslims are much more radical than first generation.
Yeah.
So we're not, that's the issue that a lot of people in Britain are concerned about, is not everyone's assimilating the way that the three of us have done.
So here,
that's a problem. If you're in a group and you're not assimilating, and there's this dynamic where you feel the entire society is against you, you're obviously going to become more radicalized, right? You're going to feel like everybody hates you.
Of course.
Where if you assimilate, you're probably going to make friends in the other culture, and you're less likely to be targeted as some other.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's just a self-fulfilling prophecy, the way they're setting things up.
here's the interesting point about that. Well, two things I want to address. First, like I said, people assimilate. And they become a part of the
some people
normal forces of society. They become a part of the culture, or they bring.
See, that this is where he should have said, listen, you were at a downtown rally in Los Angeles where they were waving Mexican flags everywhere. What was your thought process when you saw that?
Yes.
Should have asked him straight up. What do you think of that? Do you think they should have been waving Mexican flags in Los Angeles? Or you think they should have been waving American flags?
Mm-hmm.
He'd say, you know what he'd say?
Yeah.
I fucking hate, he hates America.
Some aspect of their culture into British culture. You know, they change the cuisine, and people seemingly enjoy it, even if they also simultaneously go attend an EDL rally and then, you know, get a little quick curry afterwards, or a little kebab on the side. But beyond that, the reason why people are angry is always going to be because the trains are not running on time, because the NHS is improperly managed due to underfunding. That's what I believe. I think it's always an issue of underfunding, where they're not getting the same services that they once used to, and also things are becoming more and more costly. So in that anger, it's much easier for them to be guided by the right wing forces to turn around and say, you're angry and you're right to be angry. And the reason why you're angry, or the reason why all of these things are happening, is because we are importing all of these random strangers into the country who don't speak your language, who you are scared by. And that, I think, causes division, and it causes friction that makes it harder for people to integrate. And that is part of the reason why I think
The left does the same thing with rich people, though. This is why Mamdani won in New York City, because they said all these problems are caused by rich people. Vote for me. I'm a communist. So this applies to both extremes. Do this kind of thing.
especially in a place like the UK, you see a little bit more of this resilience towards full-blown integration into society.
I also think as well, Hasan, if we're being honest, it's also because we have had such huge amounts of immigration come into the country that people understandably go, this pace of change is too much. And you have to think, let's go back to 2016, which was the Brexit referendum. Now, Brexit was about many things, but really it was about people wanting immigration to be lowered. And that was nigh on 10 years ago. Immigration hasn't been lowered. In fact, it's been ratcheted up. So people are, people voted to lower immigration. And for instance, I voted Remain. People voted Brexit. I'm like, well, that's democracy. We get on. We're going to make the best of it. I do believe that when you ignore people's wishes at the ballot box and people explicitly vote for something and you ignore them for the best part of a decade, that does generate a lot of anger, and understandably so.
Yeah, I think in that same time frame, if there was enough appetite by the government to address the financial harm that people were experiencing, the economic struggles that people were experiencing, there would still be a lot of people who say, I don't want a brown person, I don't want a black person around in my neighborhood. But ultimately, those numbers would be far smaller. And that's what I always go back to. I'm a leftist. I believe in economic improvements, and I believe that a lot of the reactionary forces actually take advantage of that instability, the economic volatility that exists, in an effort to.
This is all a diversion. This is all a distraction. It's so funny because he's like, oh, the problem is that they're all distracting, diverting, blah, blah, blah. Well, he's distracting and diverting. Okay. Well, there's truth to the idea that yes, if people are unhappy because they don't have a good job and, they're bad, they feel like they're not getting social services and the culture is fucked up and all these other things, right? Obviously, that's going to make people more prone to say, well, we need to change society in some direction. It's not working for us. And most people, they're not like, going to sit down and be like, well, I'm going to become a fucking economic scholar. I'm going to become some social scholar to figure out the problem. No, they're going to lean in whatever direction their intuitions are. And so if you're on your left, the intuition is going to be more like, well, the problem in our society is the rich and the racists and blah, blah, blah. If you're more on the right, the problem is going to be like, well, it's more of the takers and the takers, not the makers, the parasites, and the fact that there's all these immigrants coming in our country and taking our resources.
That's exactly right.
Yes. So while there is some truth to the idea that, yes, as the conditions are bad, people are going to go leaning more to their corners of trying to fix the problem. That's true. But this is all distracting from the broader point, which is it doesn't matter. Even if there were the perfect material fucking conditions in all the world, it would still cause untold problems if you have all these fucking people coming to your country who have a completely different culture, which you don't fucking like and is the antithesis in a lot of direction to your culture. And you're not allowed to say, hey, why can't we either A, limit immigration, or B, or force people to fucking assimilate culturally, or even through some sort of government policy of breaking up, this sort of everyone clumping up together in specific areas? Why can't we do this through these various policies? And if you do, you get called a fucking racist because you're not allowed to ever even say that your country has some sort of embedded culture, and it's important that culture is protected and maintained. What's in some fashion.
Did you see the podcast lady, the I Hate Everything podcast lady, say that there is no American culture? She was bitching. There's some clip that went viral, her bitching to Don Lemon about American culture being bullshit.
I Hate Everything?
I think it's...
I don't know if I'm familiar with that podcast, but no,
it's the two wine moms. Come on, we've covered them before.
That lady. Yeah,
that crazy
I did see that clip, yes.
The lady that was simping for Hasan.
Yes, I remember that clip.
I don't know the name of her podcast. I have herpes, I think it's called, or something like that. I'm a wine mom with herpes. But look, that's just insane to me. Hollywood has been exporting American culture for 100 years. What the fuck? America doesn't have any culture? What the fuck are you talking about?
What's the problem is that you have all these retards who, because they're like the fish in the ocean, okay? Because they grew up in a situation where they don't perceive the culture. Well, then there is no culture. The culture doesn't even exist.
How do people want to come here if America has no culture? The reason why people want to come here is because we've been exporting American culture, and everyone's like, "Oh, that's badass."
Yeah,
That's totally badass.
of course.
Yeah, it's insane what these people think. So
I know.
but look, to what you're saying, to say that we want to protect that culture, we think that culture's cool and we want to protect it, they lose their minds. That's like racist. Why would you want to protect your culture? What are you, a cultural supremacist?
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, I am, obviously. I think America's the best culture in the world.
Mm-hmm.
That's why look, by the evidence, that's why everyone wants to come here. That's why we have an immigration problem.
Right.
Other countries don't necessarily have immigration problems. They give people all these perks to move there because they're having some sort of demographic collapse. Like, please move to Japan.
Shift the attention away to people who have the same exact interests as you and I do. Because ultimately...
Oh, I want to say something about the voting thing. So people do follow their intuitions, and this is the magic of democracy, right? If there's more people with democratic intuitions and they win and they try the policy, they're like, okay, open borders, let's let everyone in, right?
Right.
Talking about immigration as racist. And the policy makes everything turn to fucking shit and everyone sees it. They're like, oh, fuck, maybe we should do a different policy. Maybe we should try a different policy next time, which is exactly what happened. Then everyone was like, okay, well, that policy didn't work. Let's try another policy. Maybe this will help. Look, I think people have been voting for change since Barack Obama. They have constantly change. Fix it. Try something. Why is our healthcare out of control? Why can't my kids afford a home? Right? Why is education cost 10 times what it was when the boomers went to college? Right? Why are people coming straight out of college with massive debt? They're like, do something. Try something different. This didn't work.
I don't believe that anyone is coming into the United States of America or the UK, as a matter of fact, because they want to bring about a Salafist-style Islamic caliphate in London. I know you won't agree with me on this.
It's not about whether I agree; it's about whether the facts agree with you.
I don't think that's the case.
Hold on.
I think ultimately,
let me just give you some facts then. If that we have a terrorist attack on a monthly basis by an Islamist, effectively, we just had 2 in the space of the last month as we're recording this. 33%, I think, of British Muslims want Sharia law in Britain. Like,
33%. Holy fucking shit.
Yep.
That's crazy.
Well,
That's
and
crazy.
if you listen, like Hasan, he snuck in a stupid premise in what he said, which he said, I don't think people are coming here to implement Sharia law. It's like, okay, yeah, maybe people aren't coming here with the intention to do that, sure. But if you listen to what he said, what the stat was earlier, it wasn't that, oh, you have all these people coming here and that they're like these super extremists. It was that they are coming here and then that their children and grandchildren are the extremists. They're not assimilating. They're going in the exact opposite direction.
Right.
And the reason for that, is like, if you're a minority in a country and you're fed this diet of social media nonsense, but then also like broader cultural nonsense, whether it be from schools or from other sources, that, well, because you're not white, everyone in society is out to get you and is racist against you, and the white society is bad and everything about being white is awful, then obviously people are going to say, hey, well, why should I participate in this society? I should advocate for something that's more culturally aligned with my people.
Right. Yeah. Like Sharia law.
Like Sharia law. Yeah.
That's crazy.
according to polls, more than half want to ban.
I haven't seen these polls.
Well, we can put them in for people to see. More than
how's he not seen these polls? These polls were talked about endlessly for years, and
he ignores them. He ignores them. He doesn't care. Are you kidding me? It doesn't make his argument.
half want to ban homosexuality, right? So when you say people aren't coming in to introduce an Islamist stuff, well, some of them want to if they're in a position to do so. We have 5 MPs who are effectively elected on a sectarian ticket, like as in we are Muslims, vote for us because you're a Muslim.
Who would you say those MPs are?
The 5 independent MPs. They're called the Gaza MPs or whatever way you want to call them. Right?
Are you talking about like Zara Sultana?
I don't know if she's one of them. I think one of them is called Adnan Hussein. There's 5 of them. We can look them up. We can put them in for people to see. Right. So I think it should be said that the overwhelming majority of British Muslims don't want Sharia law. But if 33% of them do, you can see why a lot of people who don't want Sharia law might be concerned about that, right?
Sure. I don't know what I haven't seen these polls, and I also don't know what British Muslims, or the 33% that are saying they want Sharia law, like what they're talking about.
If you
I don't know
He's
what
like,
if you don't know what they're talking about, then how are you commenting on the issue?
He's saying, oh, it's a very progressive form of Sharia law, obviously. They just want to be treated equally. They just want equal rights.
Yeah.
That's all they care about. Oh, look, Brad Palumbo. Did he do an ad on here?
They have a show for him.
Oh, nice.
It's pretty cool.
I would never know because I always skip. I'm always super chapped because I pay for YouTube Premium, and then people put ads into their videos. I think they should demonetize those people.
Wow.
Because look, they're making ad money from. Why are we paying? Why am I paying for this video?
Always is. I mean, there's plenty of right-wing forces in the country that also want to ban homosexuality. And
I'm just joking about the demonetization, guys. Don't lose your minds, okay? Okay.
And
no,
I mean, or trans people in general, right?
No,
Like
no one wants to ban trans people in Britain. No.
Okay. Well, that's not what I have seen so far, but maybe I'm wrong on this.
What do you mean?
But I mean, I feel like there's a lot of
whoa, how do we go from all these people want Sharia law, which I guarantee you they want to ban trans people, right? This fucking Sharia law, okay?
Yeah, you're right. How did we get here?
Well, look, I'm not sure. Maybe Sharia law is okay with, they want to ban gay people. I think in Islamic countries, you have to transition because then it's considered a heterosexual relationship.
I think it's some. I don't know if that's true.
Right.
I think some are anti both, but
okay. Well, look, they may be in favor. They definitely want to ban homosexuality, right? They definitely want to get rid of the gayness. So, but now he's like, what's wrong with Sharia law? And by the way, it's the white people that want to ban the gays.
Yeah, so he's whataboutism Sharia law to, well, they want to get rid of the transes.
Yeah.
I guess. Okay, interesting.
I mean, it's a great debate tactic.
This is a point of contention for you guys as well, but it's like when you want to ban trans people altogether, when you want to remove access to medication for trans.
Dude, this is like, what the fuck? This is the craziest pivot in the world, and they're just sitting there.
I know.
He's on a completely different topic.
People to transition and conform their own gender identity. You don't start off by saying we want to altogether ban trans people. You start off by trying to find the most successful approach that the broadest majority of the masses would be in tune with, would be in agreement with, and then you slowly but surely expand on it.
Wouldn't that be like me saying? Wouldn't that be like me saying, well, you say you want socialism, but actually you're a communist because you just want to edge your way towards communism step by step? I
mean,
that seems like an unfair way of looking at it.
No, my retort to that would be that while I don't call myself a communist, I don't have an issue with an end goal of communism. I don't think it's like I just think that it's probably not likely to happen, a stateless, moneyless, borderless society. But moving towards that end goal, I don't have any real...
You'd like communism in America?
I think that...
Look, it's just it's not a fair fight. It is not a fair fight because people look at communism like a utopian dream, but a good dream. And people don't look at fascism. Anyone other than the fascists don't look at that as a utopian dream, right?
Right.
The fascists see it as a utopian dream where they're like, oh, just an all-white society. But most people look at that as a terrible dystopian nightmare.
Right.
So so that allows Hasan to say, oh yeah, I'm totally in favor of the utopian dream of communism.
Right.
Yeah.
Communism.
Good point.
So look, and right-wingers should realize this. Like Kissen asking this. I mean, obviously Hasan is going to say, oh yeah, that's fine. Call me a communist.
Right.
That's great. That's my dream. But to his audience, they're like, oh my God, communism, that's terrible.
Them would
Well, I
be
mean,
most
Constantine's not
likely an internet.
conservative or anything. So
What's that?
because Constantine doesn't identify as like a right winger, I don't think so.
Yeah, but he should understand the asymmetry of the situation.
Right.
How he's going to suffer no downside from saying this.
Well, so
Zero.
how should people phrase this? What is the
I'm not
magic
sure.
phrase that we should create here?
I'm not exactly sure. I recognize this asymmetry. I don't know that I have a good way to fight it.
Right.
Putting it on display over and over again. Every time I see right wingers do this, put this on display, they're just singing to the choir. It's not going to affect. I don't think moderates, I don't think normies look at this. They look at this person as there's some sort of naive utopian. They
Right.
don't look at it like you're a bad person that would round people up and throw them into concentration camps.
Right.
Yeah. So you suffer no social penalty for saying, oh yeah, I'm a communist. Yeah. Yeah. So, but in Constantine's world, he's like, all of my right-wing audiences, they understand the dangers of communism. They understand that it leads to bread lines and sooner or later famine and people killing each other in the streets.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Normies don't recognize that just because people haven't really been educated about that.
Right.
People who come from communist countries know it because they've seen it. Like,
Well,
I've seen the bread lines.
Right. That's a good point because both of their families come from communist countries. Yeah.
Right,
So
yeah.
for them, it's so like obviously fucking awful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
It is a good question. I mean, I'll have to think on it because I'm not necessarily sure how to overcome this. I saw DeSantis wanted to put in the Florida school system some sort of education program so people would know, like they would teach the dangers of communism right next to the dangers of fascism. So that
Right.
would be good because people would associate the two and they'd see both lead to terrible outcomes.
Yeah.
So
And
that would put
I
a social stigma on people calling themselves communist.
right. And I 100% support that effort.
Right. But
'Cause that
we're
is the
not there
problem.
now.
Yeah. That is the problem is that people have been sort of completely fucked on this issue.
Yeah. Look, right now, a lot of the normies are thinking, oh, he's in favor of universal health care. Yeah, all the right wingers have told me the universal health care is communism. So he's just saying, look, I'm in favor of universal health care.
Right.
National thing. It'd be like the Star Trek universe. And it feels, especially at this point, it feels far too utopian to achieve. So while I think that the concept.
Who doesn't want Star Trek?
He just wants Star Trek, Adam.
He just
What's
wants
wrong with Star Trek? Yeah.
Yeah.
Just want some Star Trek. Can we just get some
Really?
Star Trek?
In reality, it's more like 1984. But look.
in and of itself is not one that I disagree with. And I don't think you would either. Don't you think it would be
I
nicer?
grew up in a communist country.
No, no,
I
but
very
not-
strongly disagree with the
Well,
concept of communism.
The USSR was, as you know as well, trying to implement communism. They never actually were able to successfully implement communism.
How do you mean?
Well, it wasn't a borderless, moneyless, classless society, right?
That was
It would
never
be
the
like,
goal of communism. It was never to be a borderless, moneyless society.
no, that is what communism is.
Well, that's not how the communists in Russia defined it.
Well,
There was a big debate within communism quite early on, which was about, are we pursuing a global
yes.
state of communism?
Trotsky versus Stalin.
Or are we,
I'm
right,
very familiar.
right. But for our audience, this might be worth explaining.
Yeah.
Some of them they basically recognized the only way you might ever get to a communist society is if everyone in the world gets it. Otherwise, there will always be a capitalist system to which people would be keen to defect. Or, this is the Stalin option that they ended up going for, is you pursue communism within the realm of one country. And in order to do that, they took the wealth away from people who had it. They tried to distribute it to everybody else. They tried to create a state of equality, uplift the poor, as you were talking about. And actually, if you take those measures alone, they were very successful at it.
Mm-hmm.
The only problem is they ended up putting millions of people in camps in order to do that, creating a tyrannical regime with a secret police that murdered people. And that is the reason communism, in my opinion, doesn't work, is because in order to achieve that goal of equality, and basically you're making everybody equally poor as the end result, you actually have to use a lot of force, right? So that was communism, what we had in the USSR.
Well, that the end goal was never successfully achieved in the USSR in terms of establishing what I'm talking about, though. And that's why I'm saying it's important to understand and recognize the failures of this implementation in the after.
How many times do we have to go through this stupid song and dance? How many times you have to be like, well, I have the perfect magical ideology? It's like, yeah, well, every fucking time it's implemented, it's totally fucked. Totally fucked. Okay. At what point do you sniveling sacks of shit realize, well, maybe the ideology just doesn't fucking work?
Yeah, I don't like the song and dance either. We're drifting into, he's going to say it's state capitalism. It wasn't really. Real communism has never been tried.
Right.
I wish people would just zero in on the incentives. It's like if you take people's incentives away, they won't. There's really no motivation to amass wealth. And if you can't amass wealth, a lot of people are not going to work hard. There's a lot of people in society that are super motivated by that. And they start all of the businesses, right? They kind of organize society. And I know the socialists absolutely hate that because people tend to fall into socialism because they don't want to work hard, right? They just want to make enough to get by. They want to smoke weed and surf. That's fine. But we do need people who are going to go out there and really take charge and build up society and be wealth creators for everyone. Mm-hmm. So that's a mechanism that you absolutely positively need. And it's the exact same mechanism that got China out of the hole that they got themselves into with the Great Leap Forward. They introduced those incentives and people decided, hey, I want to make extra money. I want to work hard. So I wish they would go down that route instead of this song and dance around. Well, they were still businesses. They were just owned by the government.
Right.
You know, the state capitalism business.
Right.
Do you agree with that or do you disagree?
I agree completely.
Okay. Yeah. The human nature thing, you're never going to escape from. There really is, so much of it is driven by jealousy. And I can see that. If you enjoy relaxing and taking it easy and you see someone who's like a big go-getter, who's really out there doing stuff, right? And they're making a bunch of money doing stuff and they seem to enjoy that and are having a good life, that makes people pissed.
Of course.
That pisses people off.
This is why, I mean, this came up with Yoren. This is why you have to acknowledge the evolved
status,
biological tendencies of humans. And if humans evolved, as they obviously did, to be status-seeking, hierarchical, organizing creatures, then any society that you build, any culture, any philosophy you build has to take that into account. And you have to try to channel those impulses to positive effects, right?
Yes.
And this is why, and this is part of why capitalism is very, even if there's issues with it, this is why on the base level, it does do these things. It does make sense. It's trying to channel these impulses for good. And one of the ways it does is it says, okay, we're going to create a bunch of different hierarchies, as many hierarchies as we possibly can, where people can succeed in them. So you have lots of options. You don't have to feel like, oh, I have, because I'm not succeeding at being a government official in China, in communist China, because I'm
North
not corrupt
Korea
or whatever.
Yeah.
Right. There's some other avenue I can succeed at.
Yeah, that is the American culture. We have all of these hierarchies and people look at those hierarchies and they say, what am I good at, right? Am I good at rap music? Am I a good actor? Am I good at business? Am I good with my hands? Am I a good mechanic, right? So there's all these different hierarchies that they can compete in, and people focus on the ones that they're good at something, right? They're like, look, I can compete in this hierarchy. They don't have that shit in North Korea, right? Mm-hmm. They have one hierarchy you can compete in, and it's politics, right?
Right.
Yeah. So they don't have the NBA over there. They don't. it's crazy to me too that people think America doesn't have a culture when that is a huge fucking culture. That is a huge culture. And we're constantly creating new hierarchies. Guess what? When I was born, video games were in a hierarchy that people could compete in. Hadn't even been thought of, right?
Right.
Yeah. Product development. Now there's this fucking AI hierarchy everyone's jumping in on.
Aftermath of a socialist revolution, and choose not to repeat those mistakes.
So how would you do it differently?
Well, that's the reason why I pointed to China. China is run by the Communist Party of China. It bills itself as communist. China is not a communist country. Would you say China is a communist country?
It's a mixed country. It has some elements of communism, but it's also got a lot of capitalism going on.
Yeah,
right?
so it's a mixed market economy is what you're saying, right? But so is the United States of America if you look at it from that perspective, because America also has some semblance of social safety nets. The UK also has some social safety nets, some state-run enterprises, especially pre-Margaret Thatcher, I would say, versus private enterprises as well. Venezuela at its peak, I think, had more privatization and more private enterprise in its economy than France did, as a matter of fact. I believe there was like a report at around 2012, maybe, where they were talking about how like Venezuela is not socialist. When these sorts of countries, and you're not wrong, it's a mixture of both, right? It exists. Social safety nets exist. Some extrapolation initiatives exist. Like when you think about Norway, for example, the entirety of the extraction industry in Norway is actually nationalized from the forestry all the way down.
Why are they letting him talk so much? He's boring as fuck. Oh my God, this guy puts me to sleep. How do people watch this shit?
I know.
I think people are in his chat just to trigger him.
To the oil and gas industry. But then there's also the private market as well, private enterprise as well. So I'm
gonna say it. Half his audience is gay guys who just want to fuck this guy. That's what's going on here.
Oh, okay.
That has to be it.
I would believe that.
Nobody who can listen to this shit. It's boring as fuck, and he's saying shit that I've heard a bazillion times.
Mm-hmm.
He's not even making it very interesting.
As far as that goes, I wouldn't say that China is a communist, and neither would you, but it's run by a communist party. And so far,
actually, there's probably a lot of women. You know how the Democratic Party has completely been taken over by women?
Yes.
All of those women probably watch Hasan.
Mm.
Yeah, that's exactly what's going on. Yeah, his audience is mostly women and gay guys.
They have seen a pretty successful, pretty robust level of growth and development overall. So they have analyzed the failures of previous communist and socialist formations, and they have responded to it in their own way.
The challenge is, Hasan, when you centralize power and you give into practically all the power to the government, what happens with that is you're far more likely to have corruption, you're far more likely to have abuse of power, and inevitably what happens is that the government can't do everything. There are things that are far better done by private practice than done by state control. So if you
agree with that. Would you also agree that there are things that are far better done in the hands of the government, or at least with like heavy market regulation and intervention?
I completely agree.
Because like healthcare, I think is a great example of this, where like it's an inelastic demand good and service, right? If you don't have healthcare, you die. So you will pay whatever price you have to pay for healthcare. And therefore, I think the American system that is the most maximalist, most capitalist, most like free enterprise system has been an abject failure in terms of delivering good results. And what I mean by that is healthcare as a whole is supposed to improve people's living standards and also make sure that everyone is getting the best quality care possible, right?
I think Obamacare totally fucked over our healthcare system even more, because they turned the health insurance companies into a waiter at an expensive restaurant. Healthcare companies, the Obamacare law says healthcare companies make 20% above whatever they spend on healthcare. So They want to spend as much money as humanly possible on healthcare so that they can get 20% above that. And it's ridiculous. That's why our healthcare costs are so expensive. They
Right.
created a system with horrible fucking incentives. And then they're like, what? Why are healthcare prices going up? Well, all these insurance companies, they want to report higher earnings every quarter. They're all fucking publicly traded companies. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out what's going on here. That's why your doctor sends you for 35 fucking tests and get you in the healthcare system for a month because you scratched your fucking leg. It's ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
And in the United States of America, we don't have that. We do have
You'll never hear that from Hasan, though, obviously.
nicer hospitals that resemble hotels as
I'll be
opposed to
honest
like.
with you, it'd be difficult not to have a nicer hospital than the UK, mate. But
Yeah, no, but but I understand that. I'm from Turkey. I've seen the Turkish public hospitals, but I would rather try to focus on the diminished quality of service and try to improve that in a socialized system than to altogether limit healthcare at the point of being able to pay for it in the way that we have in the United States of America. And I think this is a major issue with America in general, is that we are so invested in improving our GDP. We're so invested in leaning into the forces of capital that in this sector and in many others, corruption still thrives. We have it in the form of corporate consolidation here in the United States of America, because in the absence of any sort of government intervention, trust busting, and heavy regulatory intervention, all corporations end up trying to seize one another and become a force, a monopolistic force, and if not, an oligopoly, right? And many sectors have seen this. And when you become an oligopoly, you can diminish the quality of service that you're offering slowly but surely, because there's no market competition that exists any longer. So I guess the way I look at it is, in terms of corruption, you're right. There is a tendency, if the government is all powerful, even though the governments are always all powerful, there is a tendency in more centralized governance that if someone wants to be a ruthless autocrat, they can do so. And the people don't always have the capacity to rise up against that. But I would say that in the United States of America, for example, we also experience a similar dynamic. We just don't see it in the same way, because it's not the most direct form of authoritarianism, where a lot of people think, well, as long as I can eat a Big Mac, as long as I can watch TV, as long as I can.
So he's saying, to be clear here, he's saying that the Chinese government's putting the Uyghurs in camps, preventing you from traveling to Japan, doing all these authoritarian things, having the social credit score, all this other shit. Well, that's basically the same as having, not being able to afford something in America. It's the same exact principle. There's no difference between the two things.
Ridiculous.
Because you can buy a Big Mac. So
Who is this guy?
yeah. So
Can you buy a Big Mac these days? Like,
that's true.
McDonald's
That's
is
a good
not
point,
doing
yeah.
great.
Right. Well, and the difference here is that you have a market which I agree is kind of fucked, and partially it is fucked because I think of some government regulation and things of that nature. And I agree with you. I think Obamacare had a lot of problems with it, and the issue that these things can all be solved through either political change, people voting to change these things, or they can be solved by a market, someone coming up with a better product, right?
Yeah, hopefully the Republicans are talking about healthcare now, which is a good sign. So
right. None of these things in communist China, none of these things can be fixed unless a violent revolution happens, or the government just, decides on a whim that, maybe we should change something. Maybe we should do something different, right? That's the only way any of this stuff's going to change.
Yeah, I've heard just from watching the China show that you pay for healthcare in China. It's not like free healthcare.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they do have a free healthcare option, but it's like, here's a Band-Aid.
Right.
I know your arm has been severed, but take this. Take 2 aspirin and call me in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
Just tie a shoestring around there. It'll be fine.
consume porn and gamble on the unregulated crypto currency market, or gamble my modest income away, what remains after I give the rest to my landlord, then things are probably fine. And I think we dull our sensibilities in that regard. And I think it's a different form, it's a different mechanism of control that makes you think that you are actually an active participant in this.
I mean, I think that's quite a stretch, Hasan, with all respect, because the difference between, I mean, we talked about some societies that have attempted to pursue communism, China, the Soviet Union, Venezuela, etc., right? The difference between those countries is not that they can't eat a Big Mac. The difference is that if they criticize the government, in Russia today even, but of course in the Soviet Union previously, you're going to get killed, right? In America, that's not what happens, right? In America, you don't get...
We don't know yet. We don't know where we're going to go yet.
I mean, Hasan, to be fair, you're a very...
So the big defense is, well, maybe in a hypothetical future where Trump becomes the eternal dictator, we will lose these freedoms. So therefore, communism is good. What kind of fucking retarded argument is this?
We should wait. Let's not pull the trigger on this too soon.
I know. So dumb.
You're a very successful...
I agree with you.
You in China or in the Soviet Union would be killed if you were critical of that regime.
I would definitely be jailed.
You'd definitely be jailed.
Yeah,
so,
no,
so that's the difference between these countries and America. It's not a Big Mac, it's freedom.
No, so I love that you brought that up because I agree with that. I'm from Turkey, a country that has never had the First Amendment or freedom of speech. And ironically enough, the current regime, the person in charge of the current regime, Recep Tayyip Erdogan, was jailed in the past for a poem that he wrote for incitement, right? He read a poem about Atatürk, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, and he was jailed. And now he's one of the most ruthless jailers of the press in the country.
Right.
Now, so I come from that background. I can't go back to Turkey, for example,
Right.
For these reasons. I've written about Turkey extensively. And, let's just say the administration is not super fond of me and my perspective. Having said that, that is the reason why I want the First Amendment to remain in the United States of America, even though, as I brought up earlier, there have been instances throughout American history where the First Amendment has been actively violated or threatened. There are still contemporary examples of violations of the First Amendment. One example I will use is the anti-boycott, divestment, and sanctions laws that exist in the United States of America. Famously was Bernie Sanders and Dianne Feinstein, rest in peace, who actively called it out. Two prominent Jewish politicians in the country. These are laws directly written by AIPAC that dictate that if you want to become a school teacher in the state of Texas, for example, you have to sign a loyalty pledge to ensure that you never protest against the state of Israel. It's ridiculous, right? And it's a direct violation of the First Amendment. So there are...
So we're complaining about a law, which I don't agree with, some state law in Texas or some other states where they say, hey, you can't get a government contract if you were part of the boycott, divestment stuff with Israel. Okay. He's comparing that. You can't get a government contract with, well, we're going to throw you in jail. We're going to kill you. We're going to take away your freedom. That's a good
comparison.
Right. He's going to compare that to fucking boycott, this stupid bullshit. All right. Because they're saying, well, we're not going to give you a government contract, which, by the way, whenever that eventually gets through the court system, there's almost impossible that
there's no way.
That.
Yeah.
Because, every time, because I was curious, because I was looking into this, because, I did a video about this years ago, because these laws, they always creep up. And I was like, well, okay, well, what's happening? It's like, usually what always happens is the court will say, well, there might be some lower court that affirms it, but then all the appellate courts say, no, this is obviously a violation of the First Amendment or whatever. And then and all the states know this, and they all do this maneuver where once it gets to the appellate court or a higher court, because they know they're going to lose, they change the law so that this is insane. They change the law so that whoever is suing the government is exempt from the law. So they'll they'll make it like, now they don't make it like specific where they say like, well, this specific person, but they'll be like, oh, whatever industry or whatever this person
is.
This industry.
Oh, wow.
Right. So then when it goes to the appellate court, they suddenly lose jurisdiction because the person suing doesn't actually have any harm done to them because they're exempt from the law.
Wow.
So this is what the nonsense shenanigans these states have to do to keep these stupid laws. And Hasan is comparing this to throwing people in jail or killing them for speech.
For speaking out against the government, the tyrannical government.
Right.
Encroachment, there is encroachment towards the First
Well, that
Amendment.
will always happen because people will always contest it. But the point I'm making to you is when you compare China and the Soviet Union and Venezuela to America, that is not an accurate comparison.
It's not an accurate comparison, but if you recall earlier, I just said, I'm worried that we here in the United States of America are now moving in that direction in terms of social repression, in terms of political repression. And this is something that I very much fear. And I think the entry point to this is usually around Israel and what people decry as anti-Semitism. But that's not where it's going to end. If you look at the Trump administration's the active initiatives the administration is taking. Yesterday, my friend Kat Abugzaleh, who used to be a reporter who's now running in Illinois for Congress, was indicted. She was indicted because she participated in the protest against ICE outside of an ICE facility. And there are videos of her getting slammed to the ground in the concrete with this militarized, masked federal police force, right? Not only did they beat her up, which was our...
They beat her up. You know this case, Sitch?
No, I don't.
They did not beat her up. They threw her to the ground. She was on a police vehicle. I think she wrote something on the police vehicle, like "Die, you pigs" or something like that. It was hilarious. And someone did an interview with her. That woman that always is covering Epstein did an interview with her and asked her about it, brought up the video and showed her being completely unhinged and out of control. And she rage quit. She rage quit the interview.
I didn't see this.
So all of this that Hasan is saying is complete and total bullshit. Bull fucking shit.
I'm shocked that
She was
Hasan
not
is,
she was not beat up. You can't beat up people in America, okay? You can't stop them from interfering with some sort of police arrest or anything. So, nonsense, complete nonsense.
already ridiculous to begin with. But then they also chose to indict her. There
Yeah, they indicted her because she broke the law.
are examples of students, right?
Hey guys, if you don't want to get indicted, hey, don't break the law.
For their student newspaper, and getting kidnapped and thrown into a immigrant detention facility, whether it be Mahmoud Khalil, who still has an ongoing legal case for being a student activist, a student protester, and having a green card while doing it.
We
Like,
have the same
these
thing
are-
in our country
these are
in
the-
different ways. I hear
Yeah.
you.
This is the-
The reason I'm interrupting you is we've moved sideways from the topic. So remember where we started this conversation, right? So just to address your
Well,
point.
the repression didn't start in China by everybody being like, all right, it's over, we're throwing you in jail. It builds up to it is what I mean. And it's entirely dependent on the starting point. Because if you were looking at China, if you're looking at the Chinese Civil War, post-World War II, 30 million Chinese people have been slaughtered ruthlessly by the Japanese.
This is the longest fucking whataboutism in the world, Sitch.
Isn't it?
I'm
Yeah.
getting bored. This guy's
He's like-
boring as fuck.
Well, because, it's all their arguments are so fucking dumb. They always come down to, well, someone's doing something bad, but it's not their fault because something bad happened to them. So that justifies some crazy shit that they're doing.
Right. Yes. Yeah. I mean, I get the argument. He's just going a fucking hell of a long way to get there.
Yes.
He's like, look, China has to be repressive because America is so bad.
No one has any sort of personal responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
No country has any responsibility for its actions. It's always somebody else's fault. Well, obviously, the NPCs in China would respond this way because America was just so mean to them.
Yeah.
Imperialists, like that's a very different material. That's a very different set of material circumstances for the end of that civil war and to develop governance.
Fine.
Similar to the
I'm
USSR.
just trying to bring you back to the central argument, with central discussion we're having. Francis made the point that when the government is in a position to be authoritarian, where it seems to inevitably end up in every communist country in the history of the world, right? That is a situation which inevitably then leads to levels of repression of the kind that you will not see in America for 100 years. I take your point about individual protesters or individual people who've made statements about a highly controversial issue today. We have the same thing in our country where people are being sent to prison for tweets that they've done, right? Left and right. We've got Palestine Action on the left. We've got right-wing people criticizing immigration. So I agree with you. The direction of travel in the West in terms of freedom of expression is not good. And I've made that point in my book and elsewhere. But that is not the same as what the point we're trying to make, which is the system of government you are open to, based on our discussion today at least, inevitably leads to authoritarianism, which inevitably leads to repression on a scale that a Western country won't imagine. Isn't that's the reason that a lot of people are very worried about people like you who say they're open to communism.
Okay. He gives a long, dumb, rambling whataboutism answer, so it's not even worth we could stop here.
Okay,
Not even
good.
worth watching
It's getting
his answer to-
painful.
Yes.
I'm glad I didn't watch this garbage.
Yeah. So
Usually they have good content, but they're usually talking to someone who's not a full-on moron, right?
Mhm.
They're talking to someone who's smart, who knows what they're talking about, and they're getting information and disseminating it to their audience. They're talking to someone who's gaslighting their audience, and they're really not. I mean, I would have put a clip in there of the actual situation with the woman, because that's bullshit. She just like completely gaslighted everyone on that.
Well, they probably didn't know anything about. I mean, I'd never heard of this. They probably didn't know anything about it. At the
Yeah,
time.
but you fact check everything this motherfucker says. They have edited a bunch of other shit in. Why couldn't they have edited that in?
Mm-hmm.
I'd say go through this with a fine tooth comb, rebut everything that he's saying, because we didn't rebut it in the interview, and post it.
Yeah.
Post that shit.
There's some people who you can have a conversation with, and I think they'll, either you'll agree with them, or you'll disagree with them, but you feel like there's just some sort of ideological disagreement there. And there's some people who will just always lie and obfuscate and try to hide their positions. And Hasan is clearly one of those people. Whenever he's in some sort of more mainstream environment or some sort of environment where it's not communist, is all he does is he tries to soften all of his positions.
Yeah, he knows what he's doing.
And you just have to hold him to his feet to the fire. You have to say, smack him around and say, I'm not going to let you run away this entire time. But anyway.
So true. So true. So true. But they do that in typical journalistic interviews, right? They would do that in the New York Times.
Well, that was why
the New York Times knew his shit. Like, he wasn't going to let anything slide.
Right.
He's like, this is the New York Times. We have a brand to defend.
That New York Times interview was so interesting. That's because normally, for the last few years, or more than a few years, but the last decade, a lot of mainstream media, including New York Times, has been very favorable to bending over and diminishing and making excuses for far leftists and communists like Hasan. So it was very interesting to see the New York Times podcast have this guy be like, no, he literally is said, you're hiding your power level. You're not telling me what you really believe.
Yeah.
So before we get supers, there's one other thing I want to talk about today that I think is kind of interesting. Speaking of New York Times, there's a New York Times article about this. So there was the Trump administration put forward a 28-point peace plan for Ukraine.
I thought it was leaked by the Russians.
Yes. So that's what kind of was part of interesting, is that they put forward this peace plan. A lot of people who were more on the or basically everyone that was on the pro-Ukraine side of it, really fucking hated it because Axios somehow got a leak of the exact thing and leaked it. And interestingly, it seemed like this was leaked by the Russians. And it's fascinating, because if that's true, it really shows you what a disregard for Trump and the Trump administration that Russia has. If the Trump administration creates this peace plan that's more favorable to Russia, and Russia's response is to leak it to make Trump look bad, which is fascinating. What is the motivation there? Is it just to make Trump look bad?
They were in the middle of passing sanctions that were going to make it so no one could buy oil from Russia.
Yes, right,
Yeah.
right. Was it to harm that sanctions were being
Yes.
passed? Probably.
Well, it did bring that didn't pass. That wasn't finalized. So it
Okay.
totally put the kibosh on that. Yeah.
Okay, so then that does. What's kind of that's interesting because you would think that the sanctions would be passed in order to try to force this.
That's exactly
peace
what
plan.
was. That's
Yeah, but so then why were they
exactly
not
what they're happening.
passed?
Because Russia doesn't want to be forced to stop. Russia's faking it.
No, I understand Russia does. I'm saying why would our Congress not pass that? Because I believe even Trump signed off on passing these sanctions. So I don't know. Maybe they're held in limbo until they can see what Russia's response will be.
I thought they leaked the 28-point plan, and and Trump immediately thought, "Oh, look, we're so close. We're close to the peace deal. Stop the sanctions." That's what I thought the situation was. I thought they caught Trump's eye, and Trump had something to do with the sanctions being shot down.
I believe that I could be mistaken, but I believe I saw that when Trump was asked about the sanctions passage, at least he said publicly, I don't know if he's saying behind the scenes, at least he said publicly that he was in favor of it.
Sure.
So, but anyway, but that makes it even worse if Russia's the one that leaked the plan, obviously. Massively disrespectful to Trump. There was also this idea that some people had, which there's this question about whether the actual peace plan was like written by the Russians in the first place. Now that could be, people kind of came to that conclusion for two reasons. One, because it seemed like it was very favorable to Russia, but two, because there was grammatical ways in which things were said that people thought that this was written in Russian and then translated into English. But if this was leaked by a Russian source, that would make sense. That wouldn't mean that Russia created the plan, just that they leaked a version that was written in Russian. So,
right.
But the reason I want to talk about this was interesting to me about this is that there was an element of the story that I didn't really see in most places, except for the New York Times had this article where, so this peace plan comes out, the more Ukrainian people really, really don't like it. A lot of accusations of Trump being a Putin stooge comes out, being a Russian stooge come out again. And then you have Marco Rubio comes out, and apparently he's involved himself in it now, and he's dramatically weakened a lot of the original thing to make it more favorable to Ukraine. And I haven't seen really people talking about that because, like right now,
well, that's good, right?
Yeah, no, that's great. That's great because the news that's coming out right now is that Ukraine has said that they were open to the plan. And so everyone's just pointing and say, aha, they're open to the plan. This is fantastic, which would be good. Obviously, they can do peace, but people are missing this key component to it, which is Rubio basically came in and he changed a lot of the things that would have been too horrible for Ukraine to work for or to agree to.
Interesting.
So here, let me read this article here, or let me read some paragraphs from this article here. Last week, President Trump set a hard deadline for Ukraine's President Zelensky to agree to the deals of a 28-point drafted peace deal with Russia. If he refused, Mr. Trump said that the Ukrainian leader would be left, quote, to fight his little heart out. By Monday, the deadline, Thanksgiving Day, was gone. So apparently that deadline has been removed. The 28-point plan, which was widely criticized as a series of one-sided concessions to President Putin of Russia, had been shrunk to closer to 20 points. Some of the most sensitive issues, including limits on the size of the Ukrainian military and a proposed ban on basing NATO troops inside Ukraine, were set aside for future negotiations. So was the question of where the new boundaries between Russia and Ukraine would be drawn. So there was a contention. There was part of the agreement was that Ukraine couldn't, I believe it was something like they had to drop their military down from like 800,000 active troops to 600,000, and they couldn't have more than 600,000 active troops, which is fucking
fucking shit.
It's insane, right? Yes. And then also there's the NATO question, which comes up later, where it was supposed to be like, well, NATO could never ever have Ukraine be part of it, and there's this question of like, well, America can't really unilaterally agree to that because there's other countries in NATO. So it seems kind of weird and silly. And then even the most probably important question is the whole, where's the boundary between Russia and Ukraine? So if these 3 points have been set aside, it drastically changes the deal. And it seems fairly likely to me that Russia is not going to agree to any of this stuff, at least without further pressure from the United States, whether through military shipments to Ukraine or insane levels of sanctions.
So the peace deal is off? No peace deal?
It's hard for me to see Russia agreeing to this, right? They might have agreed to the original thing, maybe. I think they still would have kept pushing because it seems like they feel like they can just keep it pushing forever. And I'll get into that, why I think that is the case. But the price of the change made during a series of meetings over 11 hours in Geneva, led by Secretary of State Marco Rubio, is clear. Mr. Putin, some Trump administration officials predict, is likely to dismiss the new draft out of hand, which would lead to a long and drawn-out negotiation, just what Mr. Trump was trying to short-circuit. From his plane in Switzerland, Mr. Rubio called Senator Mike Rounds, Republican of South Dakota, and Janine Shaheen, Democrat of New Hampshire, who are leading a bipartisan delegation to a security conference in Halifax, Nova Scotia, and talked at length about the origins of the 28-point proposal. The senators then held a news conference and told reporters that they heard Mr. Rubio describe the document as one largely composed of by the Russians, rather than as an American creation. Quote, "It's not our recommendation," Mr. Rounds paraphrased Mr. Rubio, saying, quote, "It is not our peace plan." So that's a pretty huge deal because people were already accusing them of just copy pasting Russia. And now you have two senators who claim Marco Rubio told them something to this effect. But then again, that's their claiming. I'd be kind of surprised if Rubio actually said that. When their comments were reported, it seemed like confirmation that Russians had played a major role in composing the language. Suddenly, Mr. Rubio found himself denying that he ever told the senators that the document was essentially a Russian draft. He called back to Mr. Rounds and others, insisting that they had misinterpreted his remarks. But he soon confirmed that the drafting began with a weighing of Russian demands. Quote, "We began from the early stages of this process with our understanding of the Russian position as it has been communicated to us in numerous ways," he said in Geneva on Sunday. He said that included verbal and informal writing proposals sent to the State Department that are called non-papers. He insisted the same was done with Ukrainians, though it's unclear when that happened. So Marco Rubio is saying, well, no, it's not a Russian plan, but we did take their Russian position and use it as the base of the plan. So by Sunday night, Mr. Rubio appeared to have wrestled back control of the negotiations. He exercised for now sections that would forever bar Ukraine from joining NATO and that banning NATO member states from forming a security force inside Ukraine that would deter Russia from launching a new invasion. The Americans explained those decisions by negotiators to European and national security advisors who were in Geneva. Quote, "We assured them that the items that involve both Europe and NATO directly, or that those items are items that we sort of agreed to put as part of a separate track because it involves input from them," Mr. Rubio said. The White House official added that a previous provision requiring Ukraine to cede territory to Russia had been revised, but now comes the hard part. Those are exactly the provisions that Mr. Putin cares about most. So I do think that Trump could spin this in a very good way for him if they do this. I don't know if they will, because there's obviously people in the Trump administration who fucking despise Ukraine with every heart and soul of their being and are working against us for whatever reason. But I think Trump could spin this in a very good way, which is that because the reporting on this has sort of been the peace plan has come out. It's pretty favorable to Russia, and Ukraine has now accepted it. That's sort of like the way the media has interpreted a lot of this story. And that could actually be really good for Trump. It could be very good for Ukraine, because if Russia then they turn around, they're going to dismiss this, they're going to balk this, they're going to say this peace plan's a non-starter, right? Trump could very easily spin this as, we gave them this plan, it was a very favorable to them plan, and now they spit in our face. Russia is not interested in peace. Fuck Russia. They're never going to accept peace. Like, he could use this as some potential pivot point to try to get MAGA on board with being anti-Russia. Now, I don't know if he will. I'm kind of skeptical that he would do that, but I do think the grounds right now are ripe for that moment, if there were ever to be that moment.
Just sweep MAGA support in with Ukraine?
Yeah, or at least to be anti-Russia, to say, look, we came up with this great plan for them and they still spit in our faces. Nothing will ever be good enough for them except for the total surrender of Ukraine.
Right. A lot of the people who are pro-Russia are just conservatives, right? Christian conservatives.
Well, I
They
think a lot of
Russia's
it is
Christian.
just people. I don't think it has much. I don't think it has to do with Christianity. I think most of it is just. Well, there's a couple factions. I think the largest faction is just people who don't want to send money overseas to other countries, which I understand, or they don't want to be dragged into a military conflict with Russia, which again, completely understandable. There are smaller factions who are the post liberal right, who view this kind of completely moronic and false idea that they should support Russia because Russia is an anti-liberal country. And so therefore it's somehow an ideological victory for post-liberalism if Russia defeats the West in this. And that's completely fucking retarded because Russia doesn't manifest any of the ideology that the Christian post-liberals even support. You have higher divorce rates in America. You have higher abortion rates in America. You have all sorts of horrible shit going on in Russia. So the idea that they represent that ideology is fucking stupid.
Yeah, higher rates of alcoholism.
Right.
They're all a bunch of drunks.
Yeah, lower rates of people attending church than in
higher
America.
Abortion rates.
Yeah, none of it makes any sense. So I think the reason I don't think that would happen, because I think Trump could very easily spin this to be a pro-Trump message for MAGA, to turn against Putin, is, and we talked about this with Mamdani too, is like, okay, well, if Trump kind of acts so very nice with Mamdani, and then Mamdani fucks him over, it makes it easier for Trump to then turn on Mamdani later. People say, well, look, he gave him a shot. Same thing here with Putin. How many times does Trump have to keep extending the hand for Putin, to Putin to slap it away for him to be able to pivot away from this and to get MAGA on board with him? Now, it could be a little bit harder because, as we found out from X, there are a lot of these accounts that are these very big MAGA accounts that are not American. They're either in India or Pakistan or in Russia, and they're doing all sorts of propaganda essentially for nefarious actors, and they're trying to influence people. So it's not as easy as the Mamdani thing, but I think it's still 100% doable, especially if we can put a geolocation mute or block on X, which I think we should be able to do. But I think the real reason that Trump won't do this is because a lot of people in the Trump administration, especially in the first term, talked about this, is that Trump's governing style is very similar to his style when he was running the business, which is he'll have a bunch of people under him and he'll have them all fight each other. And then he'll kind of like choose what coalition or what idea to move forward with based on how they're fighting each other. And I think the issue with that, and this kind of came up a lot with the tariffs too, when we were talking about that months and months and months ago, is that you have these various coalitions form in the Trump administration that all don't have the same idea. So no one's really on board with the same idea. They all have their own ideas. So you do have a faction like Marco Rubio, who's obviously more pro-Ukraine, or at least is more on board with understanding that you can't just give everything up to Russia. And there's obviously a faction in the Trump administration that's just very much bending over, sucking Putin's dick, and just giving everything up to Russia at any cost. And as long as these factions keep fighting each other, until Trump lays his fist down and says, no, we're going in this direction, everyone needs to get on board or get the fuck out. Until you have that, you get this sort of like back and forth, I think, schizophrenic policy where one day Trump is, very deferential to Russia. The next day he's attacking Russia, and you can't really get a clear direction of where the administration wants to go.
Yeah. I know Trump wants to win. That's for sure. He wants the war to end so he can say, I stopped 9 conflicts all over the world. I thought Russia was going to be the easiest one, but it turned out to be the most difficult, but I stayed with it. I was perseverant, and I definitely got that peace treaty. That's what they want to say.
Right.
But Putin is not going to. Come on. Do you think there's going to be peace? I think Trump's going to leave office and the war is still going to be going on.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised.
Did you know that there was trans representation in ET? I had completely forgotten about this.
You're talking about the part where they have ET in the wig?
Yeah.
Yes.
They dress ET up as a woman.
Mm-hmm.
That's trans representation.
I see on screen you have female ET next to Candace Owens. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Do you want to say anything else about Ukraine before we move on?
no,
or-
I'm not. Again, I want to be clear. I think Trump could pivot this. I don't think he will. So I'm not gonna I'm not gonna hold out my breath for this. I don't think he will. So
You think Trump is going to drop the ball on the Ukraine thing?
100%.
He
keeps doing
has
it.
an opportunity here
Yeah.
to get MAGA on board, and you think he's going to fumble the ball?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, he's gonna do it. He's done it before. He's done it several times. I would be pleasantly surprised if he doesn't. But I would say it makes sense for people to predict that he's going to drop it again. And you're right. It's just going to continue on with no conclusion.
I think he would get further with the sanctions,
Mhm.
but
I agree.
yeah, but it's Putin always has some trick up his sleeve.
Right.
Anyway,
Joe the Mig for $5 says, I did not have trigonometry softballing a literal CCP propagandist and dog abuser on my 2026 bingo card. Pathetic.
they didn't bring up the dog at all, did they?
No, sadly, they did not. They did not. Yeah.
What was the thinking there?
I couldn't tell you. I could not tell you. I don't know if maybe they'll put some comment about it. I would, if I had to guess, I would say the guess would be because they want to talk about politics, and that is not politically at all related. That's just attacking Hasan's character. So,
I
that'd be my
mean,
guess.
they could have framed it in terms of Democrats attacking Romney for the dog on top of his car and asked if that was fair.
Oh,
And then led into,
interesting.
because then it's politics, right?
Right. Yeah.
Famously, Democrats attacked Romney in the election against Obama for an
Right.
incident with his dog on top of his car.
Mhm.
He would have been sweating so hard as soon as they said that. Oh my God. That would have been beautiful. That would have been internet gold. That would have
Right.
been comedy gold. That would have been the perfect way to lead into the question about the dog.
Mm-hmm.
Romney denied the allegations, as one might do, as someone else might have done.
Yep.
Was it effective for him politically to deny those allegations?
Did he deny that? Did he fully? I don't even remember his response to any of this stuff.
I don't remember either, but I think he
the dog
denied.
stuff. Yeah.
I think he denied the allegations.
Mm-hmm. WTF 1A for $10 says, have you seen Socialism? In-depth explanation by Ryan Chapman on YouTube. Seems like it'd be worth your guys' time since it's 1 hour long. Praise be the A and S gangs. Unity brings peace. I have seen it. Ryan Chapman's
Yes,
great.
I saw
He
it
does
too.
Great content. Yes, 100%.
I mean, that's how he talked about the sanctions in that video, right? I mean, that might be where I heard him. I watched a few things on it, so
Mhm.
maybe I saw it in a different video.
Grawl TH for $5 says, I love how Hasan Pike doesn't mind China stealing literally trillions in intellectual property. Who should we steal from if we try to be like China? Yeah, I've never heard Hasan bring that up. He'd probably make up some bullshit excuse about how, well, it's capitalism, so it's totally fine to steal from all the evil, greedy businesses and make their cheap Amazon knockoff products.
Yeah, I'm sure he thinks that's just fine. And look, he works for Amazon, who sells all the cheap fucking knockoffs.
Mm-hmm. Val Van Gogh for 40 months. Thank you so much. Says Milton Friedman visited China in 1980 and advised the government on free market principles and price control.
That's right. That is exactly right. Yeah.
Mhm.
Talk to them about the market incentives. That's when he had that show, Freedom to Choose. Got to bring that freedom to choose in.
Swamp Faye for $10. Thanks so much. Says you're wrong about needing money to have family. More money equals smaller families. The rich have fewer children, and then the peasants always. Religion changes that equation before the short term only see Utah. I mean, that is a fair point. That there's a strong correlation. It seems like the richer people get, the smaller the families are. The poor people are, the larger their families are. There's truth to that. There is truth to that. I would be curious to see more studies on this though, because it does just seem intuitively clear that if people don't have a stable job or even a home at all, they can't even afford a home, that it's going to be more likely that they're not going to get married and have children and all these other things. I
Home is
wonder
the big
if,
thing.
yeah, I wonder if in the past, a lot of things about like more money equals smaller families is just because people that had more money had more education, they had more sexual education, they had more access to contraception and things of that nature. And yeah, I mean, I guess maybe they'd probably be more likely to be less religious too. And so I don't know if it's like, okay, well, if everyone's poor, right, they're gonna have kids all of a sudden. So
I was reading some book and they were talking about the 1600s and how there was limited housing and the birth rates declined because of it. And they were mapping the birth rates onto the cost of housing all the way back to the 1600s. And I can't remember what the book was, but they didn't equate it to what was going on now, but I did. I thought, wow, interesting. Housing is so expensive now, and the birth rates are completely down. Yeah. As soon as people get a home, they start thinking about having a family.
Right. Sketch for $5 says, crazy to me that Hillary Clinton's basket of deplorables comment is just as relevant now as it was a decade earlier.
I agree.
Majid for $5 says, Adam is incorrect about this. When it comes to those who potentially have a second home, they have imposter syndrome. They are fighting the familiar. I'm not sure I understand what you're talking about. Did you say something? I missed it. Did you say something about people having a second home?
Well, no, I think he's talking about assimilation, right? He's saying when they have a second home country.
I see what you mean.
And they come here, you can look at assimilation as, I could see it as imposter syndrome. That could be the case.
That's interesting. Yeah, that's a good point. Okay. That could be. That definitely makes sense. Yeah.
I could see that. It'd be interesting to ask people.
Qubit Madara for 125p says China has also been repeatedly attacking the Philippine ships this year. One ship even rammed a Philippine ship, but in a press conference, they blamed the Philippines for the collision. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, look, it's getting scary out there. It really is with the Taiwan situation. There's so much that could go wrong right now. I always think about the climax turning, the political instability that we're in, the institutional stability that we're in, and this whole fucking AI thing at the same exact time. It's just, if we were approaching this new AI technology, which is fraught with danger, in a time when we were stable socially and economically, like the 1950s, I would feel so much better. I'd be like, look, we're united as a people. We can deal with this thing. But now, oh my God, it's terrifying. It's completely terrifying. And you got China basically facing demographic collapse and also the AI competition with America, terrified. Oh my God. We're so fucked. I keep thinking, I'm waiting. I'm just waiting to wake up in the morning and see like the stock market down 5,000 points and what sort of mania has been unleashed on us. Do you think about that at all, Sitch?
Of course.
Did you watch that video I sent you on the AI stuff? That video is pretty fascinating.
I didn't watch it yet. No.
Oh, okay. I'm watching a lot. I'm reading books and watching a lot of videos on the alignment problem with artificial intelligence, which is just
I watched one that you sent me. I didn't watch the one that was the guy talking. I watched the one that was them asking the AI the various trolley problem questions.
Oh yeah.
It was kind of ChatGPT has the worst fucking answer for all these questions.
Yeah, that one's kind of funny. I thought maybe we could watch that on Sunday. We should definitely. There was a guy who worked at Google and basically woke up in 2023 just with an epiphany Like, okay, we're creating something that's going to kill us. Like this. And you think about it, you're like, all of the technologies that we've postulated in science fiction, most of them have come true, right? We haven't got the time machine yet, and we're still a ways from the warp drive. But a lot of that shit is fucking panning out. And I look at Terminator and I think, I wonder how difficult it is to make one of those things.
Not great. I used to be more dismissive of like the Terminator future because I was like, well, I mean, you just program the computer to do something. Like, why would you program it to go crazy? Like, how could the computer do something outside of its programming and go crazy and take over things? Like, it didn't really make sense to me. But that was obviously before we had the LLMs come into the picture, where it's like, well, we don't really know how these things work. And they're sort of programmed in this very bizarre, non-direct way. And they can do a bunch of shit that you don't really expect them to do. And now I'm like, oh, I guess that future seems more possible now.
Yeah, they develop a language to speak to one another that we're not even privy to. We have to get another AI to describe what the language means.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it is, we're way off the charts here with this stuff. The video that I sent you, the guy who left Google in 2023 after he realized, okay, all of my work is really going to destroy the human race here. He had a really good analogy. This was the first ray of hope I found in all of my learning about this stuff, because mostly it is pretty dark. We're developing a super intelligence that's obviously going to be vastly more intelligent than us. So we are not going to be able to compete against this thing if there's conflict. If there's any sort of conflict between us and the super intelligence, we're going to lose. We're completely outclassed. But he said there's only one situation he can think of where there is a huge imbalance in power dynamics, but the weaker power has the upper hand. And that is in the maternal dynamic, where the mother, all of the engineering in the mother is to take care of the baby, right? Even though the baby is helpless, right? So he's like, we have to engineer that maternal instinct into the AI, or we're fucked. We're totally fucked.
Right.
And I keep thinking, well, how do you do that, right? I mean, we've had millions of years of evolution that engineered the maternal instinct into the mom, and you still have lots of moms that are fucking pieces of shit. Yeah. Anyway, we can go on to super chats.
GrawlTH for $5 says, funny enough, there was just a case of China's IP using AI coding tools jailbroken to hack into U.S. systems. The main blocker was Claude hallucinating. That's pretty funny if that's the case. I didn't hear about this, but I just Googled it now. This is pretty crazy. This is on the 13th. They said, it says in mid-September, we detected suspicious activity that later investigation determined to be a highly sophisticated espionage campaign. The attackers use AI agentic capabilities to an unprecedented degree, using AI not just as an advisor, but to execute the cyber attacks themselves. The threat actor, who we assessed with high confidence was a Chinese state-sponsored group, manipulated our Claude code tool in an attempt infiltrating into roughly 30 global targets and succeeded in a small number of cases. The operation targeted large tech companies, financial institutions, chemical manufacturing companies, and government agencies. We believe this is the first documented case of a large-scale cyber attack executed without substantial human intervention. Upon detecting this activity, we immediately launched an investigation to understand its scope and nature. Over the following 10 days, as we mapped the severity and full extent of the operation, we banned accounts as they were identified, notified affected entities as appropriate, and coordinated with authorities as we gathered actionable intelligence. Why is the Trump administration not shouting about this from the hilltops, denouncing China, throwing sanctions on China, attacking China for doing this activity?
Because Trump wants a China trade deal. That's all he cares about. He's monomaniacally fixated on it. Nobody sees this as a real threat. Everyone thinks it's just crazy. People believe Candace Owens is going to be murdered by the French government more than they believe AI is going to kill us.
Well, it's not even a question of like, oh, AI is going to kill us via Terminator. It's a question of China is going to do a bunch of fucked up shit. which should
Oh,
be
yeah.
obvious.
That's even a
So,
lower bar.
yeah. Rawl says this is normally as far as how much they hack us. Yeah, but that's the problem. They're going to keep trying. They're going to keep trying. They're going to keep poking the gate, poking the door till they can make their way in. So it's not like they're going to be like, oh, we only got a little bit. We're going to stop here.
They were using an AI to do that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. They use Claude, that model.
Right. I haven't used Claude.
I've never used it too, but I know it's one of the main ones.
I dumped Grok because Grok was just making shit up constantly. And I was calling him out saying, you suck. You're fucking you're an idiot. You're just making shit up. That wasn't anywhere in there.
Right. Insensitive for $10 says the idea that people come here because of our culture isn't true. They hate our culture. They actually come here because there's money. So I would actually be curious if there's some way to, I don't know how you really could effectively, but some way to make the poll on that now. Because it used to be, I don't know what it's like now. It used to be, maybe 30 years ago, 50 years ago, there was a strong attitude of people coming to America, not just because they wanted money and opportunity, but they felt that the ability to make money, the ability to have opportunity was inherently tied into American culture. Like the idea that someone could come here and say, I want to make money here, but I don't like the culture. That it used to not even make sense. It used to be completely like an insane concept to people because they'd say, well, no, those things are tied together. They have to be tied together. The culture produces the environment where you can make money, you can have opportunity. And I think a lot of that was because there was a lot of pro-American messaging in US media and in movies that was shot out to the rest of the world, and people would consume it and they would say, okay, well, America is this land of opportunity. And unfortunately right now, because the left has been so brain rotted, especially the Hollywood left, into just fucking hating America, since so much of the cultural messaging that America has unfortunately been broadcast in the rest of the world is America sucks and white people suck and America's evil and white people are evil, then I could believe that would make more sense that people could come or would come to America not wanting to assimilate or not thinking American culture is actually a good thing. And then once they get here, they have that further indoctrination about how America sucks and how white people sucks. And so even if the first generation people come here and they're happy to assimilate and happy to become part of American culture, maybe their kids or their grandkids get indoctrinated by all the TikTok Chinese propaganda that hates America.
Freedom of speech, freedom of religion, a criminal justice system that doesn't incarcerate you without reason.
Mm-hmm.
Those are all parts of the culture, right?
Right.
If you come from a culture where normally you get pulled over and you have to pull out money to bribe the police or pay some tax that you weren't aware of because the cop just made it up on the fly, people are like, oh, that culture sucks. I'm going to go to American culture where they give you a fair trial, right?
Right. Yeah. And you had the media in Hollywood and everything would promote this idea that that's what America represented.
No one is above the law.
Right. And
well,
now
in my country, everyone's above the law, but me. This fucking sucks.
Right. And now we've totally lost that. So.
Yeah, you got Hasan out there blasting out, oh yeah, fucking cops never follow the law.
Yeah. America's
beat you
just
up.
as bad as China.
I was watching something though, and one of these commies did admit that you can't bribe a police officer. And I thought, oh, you think? You think?
Mm-hmm.
Try that in some communist country. They'll be like, oh, thank you. You're free to go now.
Swamp Faye for $5 says, I think the anti-communist laws are still on the books, federal level. Anyway, let's enforce them, starting with Hasan. Denaturalize. RBGH fan for $5 says Hasan's definition of communism equals unicornism. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, so good.
Grawl TH for $10 says, I do love Hasan's argument that you need everyone to agree with communism for it to succeed. This would work for any ideology, almost like it's not realistic and shouldn't be the backbone of your ideal. Yeah, that's what I mean. It's so obvious if you're not indoctrinated with this stupid shit. If you have this stupid ideology that's like, yes, our ideology will only work if there's no competitor to the ideology, then obviously your ideology is dog shit.
Yeah.
So,
An ideology that people massively defect from because it sucks so bad
right,
is not going to be a good ideology.
right.
Just
Ace
everyone
for-
stick with it.
Ace for $5 says, I'm not even mad that Trump made his sedition comment. I'm mad that he didn't direct his ire at Hasan, someone who deserves it. There you go. Cameraman for $5 says, now is a good time to remind people how China is closer to fascism than capitalism / mix, the perfect illustration of the horseshoe theory in action. Yeah, that's a good point. That is a good point. Hasan out here, the socialist, is simping for fascism while he's complaining and crying that America is on the verge of fascism.
Yeah, he says we're on the verge of fascism, and that's why China has to be on guard. It's such a weird argument. It's like, what? They have to be fascist because we're on the verge of fascism?
Makes sense.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't make sense at all.
Ace for $5 says, at this point, Hasan makes me understand Putin's fetish for enemies that for some reason fall off of buildings.
Oh, no.
Grawl TH for $5 says, Hasan convinced me forced organ harvesting is a small price to pay for cheaper health care. I mean, did those political prisoners need their organs? That's a good point.
All those organs going to the party bosses, too. Hasan would lose his shit if that was going on in America.
Of course.
They were taking some poor, oppressed minority and harvesting their organs for senators.
Yeah. It's okay when China does it, though. So don't worry about it.
That's so fucking crazy. That is so crazy. And he'll say, oh, yeah, they have a much better system. How do people take this guy seriously?
The Oceanist for $5 says, Hasan will support any fascist country if they're America bad. Imagine how he would have reacted during the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact. Yeah, he would have been like, oh, so based that the USSR is joining forces with Nazi Germany because America bad. You got to stick it to the West.
Ugh.
The Oceanist for $5 says, also, commies don't care about issues like racism, workers' right, or any other issue. They're all just means to an end to reach socialism. That's true. That's true. Sketch for $5 says, later in this episode, Hasan runs the fence for Luigi Mangione, but don't worry, it's just a meme, bro. Year of Luigi never ended Hasan's world. Yeah. That part's kind of interesting in terms of what Hasan is saying, just because like they ask him, why you keep saying that Luigi's not guilty? And he's like, well, it's just a meme. And he's like, okay, so you think he's guilty? And he just totally does this, nonsensical, dishonest word salad answer about the whole situation. Because in reality, the thing is that he believes, he doesn't want to say to Triggernometry, is that he thinks it's completely justified for people to kill CEOs of healthcare companies. And he just doesn't want to say that because he's a coward. Metalworks 411 for $5 says, I've been listening the whole time. So the minute open the feed, all I see is Hasan's tiny freaking head. Holy shit. Oh, wow. Yes.
What do you think that's about, Sitch?
Yes.
What was going on there?
He's got a little tiny head.
Oh, okay.
See, we even have a Hasan fan in the chat because there was a bunch that came in because they saw Hasan's name in the title. And it's funny. He literally is saying the exact thing that I said. Hasan is trying to pretend that that's not his position. And they're like, oh, well, Luigi's based because he took a murderer off the streets. That's exactly what Hasan's position is. But he's too much of a pussy to say that to the Triggernometry crowd. And his fans don't actually care that Hasan is a pussy about it. They're fine with Hasan lying publicly about his position. So this is the audience that Hasan has cultivated.
Yeah, look, they know. It's so funny. I saw an alt-right pipeline video recently that just came out a few days ago. They're still talking about the alt-right pipeline, okay?
Mm-hmm.
All of these people know that the alt-left pipeline exists. They're down with Hasan lying about it because they want to keep it a secret. That's really their idea.
Of course.
So it's so disgusting.
Man of Culture for £5 says Hasan uses the Richard Wolff mop and bucket definition of socialism. He does. Yeah. Socialism is when the government does things. Yep.
Yeah. fucking
Which
ridiculous.
unfortunately the Republicans, the neoconservatives, really made that possible by using that dog whistle for the last 40 years. Insensitive for $10 says, I've been seeing a lot of new slop accounts created this month. They have no location information on them. Be careful. The Indians are hiding among us. If Elon really, I think Elon could really save the country if he just made it so location information has to be displayed on your name. Like it has a little flag of your country. It has to be just displayed. And you can block anyone based on geolocation or, if they're using a VPN or something. I think he would save America. The way the political conversation in America would change so drastically on the internet based on that alone would just make people's heads explode. They'd realize, holy shit, we've all been subject to this insane level of propaganda this whole time.
Yeah.
And we just didn't, we kind of thought it, but we didn't really see how bad it was.
Yeah, it's so lame.
CS Pathway for $5 says, artists are why we're all so insecure. If Adam can see E.T. and Candace, he can definitely see Jar Jar Binks in me.
Oh, uh-oh. Are you worried? Do you look like Jar Jar Binks?
He's worried.
Watch out. I thought we said you look like a handsome chap, so.
Well, Jar Jar is kind of handsome in the right light, right?
Ugh. Okay.
Misa!
Oh, definitely. That's what you
Raw
want.
TH for $5 says, funny enough, there was just a case of China's. Other one. Ace for $5 says, the debate with Carl shows he supports autocracy, but knows how bad it sounds, so he goes with monarchy instead. I don't know. I'm curious if he might accept that. He might say that he'd be in favor of an autocratic government if the alternative is whatever things are going on in the UK and US right now. Which I think is
don't they
horrible.
already have that? It's the trans women or women autocrats.
Well, he might make that. It's not the same, obviously. We
Right.
live in like an actual autocracy. So Swamp Faye for $2 says, insist on Asimov's laws of robotics with every AI ASAP. They should. It's hard because I don't even know with like the way the AI is coded or comes into being now. Is that even like can you just, I don't think you can just like program. Can you like hard program anything into this stuff? Or is it all just based off of the training data? So you have to have like a general vibed base way of directing things and, directing the AI in certain directions.
It's based off the training data. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you don't really know. You can't introduce hard rules like that.
Mm-hmm.
He also, in that video, you really should listen to it. It's pretty fascinating. He says that they're already conscious. That by the definition of consciousness that he uses, they definitely are already conscious.
What's the definition that he uses? Do you remember?
Actually, it's, I don't think I could repeat it.
Oh, well,
It is pretty complicated.
Right.
It has to do with your senses, the way that you perceive the world. And he uses the example of you being drunk and seeing pink elephants, but you know that your perceptual system is off. So it creates this sort of internal world that you believe exists.
Oh,
and
interesting.
And he's like, the AI already have this. This is one of the early experiments that he did. He had an AI and they hooked it up to a camera, right? And they place a ball in front of the AI and they ask, okay, there's a ball. Where's the ball? The AI can point to the ball. But then they put a prism in front of the camera, which distorts the camera lens. And they ask where the ball is, and the AI points off to the side, right? Doesn't point at the ball because the lens is distorting its perception. But then they explain to the AI what's going on, and the AI can understand, okay, well, my perceptions are being messed up by this prism in front of me, and then it can extrapolate and fix it, basically.
So that's an interesting idea. It's an interesting experiment. I would say that the way that I think you have to test it is, so he's basically saying like if you can have a theory of mind that exists outside of your direct sensory inputs, that's consciousness, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of what he's saying. I don't know if that experiment would be. I think you'd have to keep doing more things, because I feel like you don't necessarily need a theory of mind to do that. You just need to have like a program, and you say, oh, well, this is like physically how objects work. So if you see this information, disregard it. Like that's not really a theory of mind. I think you have to present it with something that it would believe is untrue, even if it was perceiving it, with no information about the stimulus whatsoever, like something completely new, something it has no information about. And then if it could still say, well, I think that this is probably an illusion or not real based on my own like past perceptions or something, then maybe I think you have more of an evidence for that claim.
We should watch clips for it on Sunday, because he does also say that everybody has this theory of mind that is untrue.
Of course.
So he says the theory of mind that people usually have is not really accurate to what the theory of mind is, how it exists in reality. So he's challenging that at the same time. So he's saying the actual theory of mind and how brains work are how AIs work, that they're closer than people are willing to admit.
Right.
Yeah. So, but he, even in the interview, he says, well, I don't really want to tell you my exact theory of mind, because every time I say it, people think I'm crazy. And it's important for people to listen to this message, because it's like the entire human race is on the line, right? So he doesn't want to come out and say some crazy nonsense. But I think it's when he says that, I immediately jump to Donald Hoffman, who I'm a huge fan of, who has this crazy idea about how the universe works. His book is literally called The Case Against Reality. So a lot of people look at his ideas and they think, wow, this guy's insane. But he backs them all up with scientific evidence and stuff like that. So there's a lot of things in science that are counterintuitive. I never, before the LLMs, did I really think, well, this is how I speak. I really am thinking. I mean, I don't compose some paragraph in my head. I'm kind of like looking for the next word as I go, right? I have a general idea of what I want to say, but then I'm constructing it on the fly.
Sure.
You especially, I'm sure you do the same thing on the podcast.
Of course. Well, everyone does, obviously. Yeah. I would temper hesitancy, because I think we're in a situation where it's like, we don't really understand how consciousness works. We don't really understand how the human brain works in a lot of capacity. So in a lot of ways, the human brain, in the way that we interact with the world, is sort of a black box as well. We know we're receiving inputs. We know that those inputs affect us, and then we generate some kind of output, but we don't know the exact process. And LLMs work the same way, in that, yeah, we kind of like have a vague notion of how it works, but we don't know exactly how it works. So it's kind of a black box. So I think it can be easy to say, well, we have these two black box systems, so therefore they must be the same, when in reality, they could be very different in how they actually operate.
Yeah, he goes into some of that too.
Mm-hmm.
The differences between the analog and the digital. The big difference, and he has utilized this experimentally, is that the digital mind is a carbon copy of the other minds. So therefore, when the digital mind learns some new trick, all the other minds can easily adopt it, because the structure of the mind is exactly the same. Where our minds are grown over 18 years. Like you and I know different, you and I know the same language, but the pathways that determine us saying those words are completely different. Like, yeah, because it's just the randomness of how those engineering pathways were created is random.
Right. But even like on just I guess a strictly mechanical level, like you could have a situation where you grow up and you're told, you've like, let's just say hypothetically, you've never seen an apple before. And you're told, well, apples are blue. Apples are blue. You're told your entire life. This is your training data, right? And then you go somewhere and there's an actual apple and you see it and the apple is red. And you're like, what the fuck? Apples are red. And I'm like, yeah, apples are red. They're not blue. Whoever told you that was lying, right?
Mhm.
You could immediately take that information and you'd forever be like, well, apples are red. The AI doesn't do that, right? It doesn't. They'll just always revert back to the training data. It will never be able to move past that, at least the way AI is currently right now.
What's the process that they do I mean, they have a process where they filter out that wrong information, though. That's
Right, but they
part
have
of-
to completely redo. They have to like redo it through the training process, redoing the model some capacity. Like if you're having a conversation with chat, like I'm sure everyone's experienced. This is why you're getting so frustrated when people deal with Grok or ChatGPT or something, and it tells you something you know is wrong, and you're like, "This is wrong," and it will just loop forever. Like maybe it'll say, "Oh, you're right," and then if you ask it 2 seconds later, it still gives you the wrong answer, or it will even like argue with you and or try to make up some excuse for how it's not actually wrong.
Yeah, obviously. I can't
So-
remember. I can't remember the name of that process. Chat, help me out. What is the name of that process? Where they introduce the training data, and then as the model gets better, which in this case would be the wrongness of spotting red apples over blue apples.
Right, it was just some sort of iterative process. I don't know what the specific coding word is. But
It is.
Yeah.
But they have AIs that can actually do that now. One of the big problems is long-term memory. Like what you're
Yeah.
saying, I would immediately record. I would take it from short-term memory and record it in long-term memory, right? That's how I would
Right.
know that it's completely changed. And the LLMs now, especially the ones that you're interacting with online, don't have long-term data, don't have
Well, they-
long-term memory, but they do have
Mhm.
other AIs that do have long-term memory now.
No. So the AI that we interact with, it has long-term memory, but the long-term memory is not based on any of your interactions with it. The long-term memory is based purely on the training data. Like you can't, at least to my understanding, you can't have a conversation with an AI and it can take that information and add it to its long-term memory. That's not possible yet. And so-
Yes.
Yeah, so I'm saying like mechanically the way
Agents
in which our
can do that. Yes.
I'm not
Look,
sure.
because
Okay,
I saw
maybe I don't
because
know what
I
I'm saying.
saw
Mhm.
Stephen Michael Davis. I was listening to his show, and he was talking about how he asked the AI to save a list. He put a list together and asked the AI to save the list, and he wanted him to help the AI to help him with the list. Obviously, an AI can't do that. I was actually snickering because I was like, well, it can't save your list and remember it days later.
Yeah, it can.
Really?
So, well, I don't know the exact way it works. Like my understanding of the way that a lot of the AI works is like you can create prompts. Like if you tell it to save information, what it's really doing is it's not adding the information to long term. It's creating a prompt so that whenever you prompt it again, it's literally repeating in its prompt that saved information. And so it's really adding it to its short-term memory. So if you're telling the AI to remember something, you're really reducing its short-term memory token amount permanently. And so eventually, if you keep telling it to remember things, it will eventually not be able to because you've filled up its short-term memory.
Okay.
Now, I don't know if that's how whatever because I'm unfamiliar. I've never used an agent before, so I don't know if it works differently. But I'm just from my experience with the way the LLMs I've interacted with work is that through that process.
Well, look, I was having a conversation with one of these LLMs, and it gave me a bunch of bullshit information. And I went and tried to track it down, and I told it, I was like, look, you lied to me. This
Right.
doesn't exist. This article's not in this magazine on this date. This date magazine doesn't even exist. And it was saying, oh, well, thank you for telling me that. And I was like, well, are you going to remember that? And it's like, oh, no, I can't. I can't remember that.
Right.
And I said, well, if somebody else asks you the same question, you'll fix it for them, right? And they're like, no, I'll just look at the data again.
Well, exactly. That's what. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
so
what you're saying checks out. But
Right.
they talk about this in like that is a huge problem for agents, right? Because agents have to remember the task at hand and check back in and achieve steps and adjust the goal along the way, keep track of how close they are to achieving the goal, that kind of thing. So they do need some level of long-term memory.
Yes. So someone in the chat said something similar. I said, I've never encountered that. I put new parameters and it sticks through the full conversation. And even if I go back to the conversation days later. Yeah. So I think my understanding, this is the way it works, is like, just say for like an example here, you're talking to the AI and the AI is calling you user and it has some kind of save memory feature. So you're like, oh, I want you to forever refer to me as, S class is best class Sitch. And I like save that to the memory. What that means is that every time you ask the AI a question, there's an invisible prompt you do not see on your UI that the AI sees that says the question, and then above it, it says, always call user S class is best class Sitch. So it's repeating the instructions every time you type something. You just don't see it on your end.
Interesting. Okay.
Right.
And that's in ChatGPT?
I think that's the way that they all work.
Okay.
They all work in that capacity.
I'm switching. Everyone's talking about Gemini being crazy good now, and Gemini being a lot better than ChatGPT. But I mean, I'm done with Grok. Grok can fuck off.
Yeah, I've always had very mixed results with Grok, so I've never been a huge fan of it.
Yes, I can't. The process of building these AIs, they give them problems to solve, and then they let them loose to think about the problem, and then they break down into tokens which tokens got closer to solving the problems and which tokens were just like way off, and then they eliminate the thinking process that led to the way off tokens, and they keep the tokens that led closer to the objective, and then they run it again until they find a thinking process that leads to the solution. So
Grawl for $5 says the reason cyber warfare isn't a larger public concern is because we're pretty good at fighting in that ecosystem and it's too easy to fearmonger it. I mean, I get that argument, but I would say it's definitely, unless maybe we're just doing it to everyone else. And if that's the case, then, who are we to throw stones, right? So maybe. I think that's probably the real reason that we're not really complaining about it, because we're probably doing the exact same thing. Because if we're not doing the same thing and they're doing it to us, I mean, this really should be considered acts of war. Insensitive for $5 says people that come here just to hear the melting pot line and use that to justify establishing enclaves where you can blast prayer in Arabic at 5 a.m. Yeah, I mean, again, I think there is a difference between like where people are coming from. Obviously, if people are coming from certain countries versus some other countries, I think they have different attitudes about what it means to immigrate. And also another important factor too is a lot of the Middle Eastern immigration is from people fleeing war situations. And I think you're always going to have a very big difference when someone is forced to flee a country because they don't want to die versus someone making the voluntary decision to say, I don't really like my country, or I don't like the direction my country is going, so I want to live in a different country that I think is going in a better direction. I think it's definitely going to impact the way people feel about assimilating in the country. Jason Mulgreen for $10 says, did you see Fuentes trying to reach out to the populist left? Fucking frightening when you think about what he says. Lefty social safety net plus strong national identity, united by hating Israel. Yeah, I did see that. I think we talked about that a little bit on Sunday, but that's always been the move. And it's so funny because all these socialists are so fucking triggered. And I guess the far right is very triggered too about horseshoe theory. But this is why horseshoe theory kind of operates and works in that exact process. So it's not really surprising. I'm not sure. There'll be a faction, I think, of the far left that they could break off and they can join force with it. But so much of the far left right now is so, like, their entire grounding philosophy was rooted in wokeism and identity politics and white people being bad and all this other shit that I don't think they could jump. I don't think the majority of them could jump to join the Fuentes side of things. Todd Sullivan, thanks so much for the $5. She's Pappy for $5 says, highly recommend everyone change their profile page to their face. Ever since I did, every super chat results in Sitch and Adam commenting on how handsome I am. Thanks. Look,
I
there
wonder
you
if
go.
CS
Well, that only works if you're handsome, though, right? What if you're an uggo?
I wonder if CS Pappy has a significant other already, or if he's.
What if you Here's what you should do. You should take a picture of yourself, then you say the AI, "Hey, make me more attractive,"
Mhm.
and then you make that.
Oh,
your
that's
profile picture.
great. Then when you show up to meet the girl, she's like, "Why are you so ugly? Jesus!
What do you listen? All
What
the girls
happened
use
to what happened to your
filters.
picture?"
What are you talking about? All the girls use filters. What girl's putting up fucking pictures of herself that she hasn't gone through the filters or the AI or a million Photoshop layers?
Yeah, but when
Zero.
the guy shows up, they're like, "Oh, she's a woman. It'll work."
What do you think makeup is,
She's
Adam?
female.
Makeup is just real life Photoshop.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it is. I'm
It's
sure
true. It is
You've
true.
seen those videos. They have the girls who look either ugly or pretty plain, and then they like
Oh yeah,
they
I've
do the-
seen those.
they do like the
Definitely.
time jump. They put the makeup on, they do the time jump, and suddenly they're like a 9 or a 10. You're like, what the fuck's happening? This is cheating.
As long as they wear the makeup to bed.
Yes. Grawl for $20 says, guys, I can't handle it. You're torturing me with this conversation. The way the LLMs are, it'd be easier to consider them the hearing and visual center of a brain. Most of the time, the whole conversation is sent to the AI. Well, I don't know what you mean that last sentence. Most of the time, the whole conversation is being sent to the AI.
Like the AI is hosted on some server.
Right, but am I using the terms incorrectly? Because when I say LLM, I kind of mean the AI. I'm kind of using the term.
The AI model, yeah.
Right. So I don't know.
Well, they do call it the large language model, right?
Right. So I don't know if you mean that we should be considering them two different things, which that's the case, then yeah, I guess I'm not understanding the difference between the two things. But because I do consider it sort of the way I've considered the way the current LLMs work or the current AI works is that I have considered them sort of like just a hearing visual box that has like it's like a combination of like a rote memory and sort of like a jumble up matron machine. So it kind of like takes the inputs in and then it kind of just vomits back out something that seems like it makes sense based on its rote memory and its very limited short-term memory, which I don't know. To me, that just seems very different than the way humans process information. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm being a humanist. Maybe I'm not giving the clankers their due, but it does seem very different to me.
I love that clankers term, the derogatory term for robots.
Mm-hmm.
The clankers.
Dr. Live for $2 says, to some extent, I think ceding ground to Russia has to happen just by virtue of them being more powerful as a nation, but any concessions preventing Ukraine from joining NATO is ground zero for invasion 2.0. Yeah, anything. Well, that's why it's kind of silly. It's like even if we say like, oh, they won't join NATO, or Ukraine says they're not going to join NATO, there's going to, again, like a million times, all the people that hate Ukraine they refuse to accept actual reality. It's so funny because a lot of those people get so mad and they're like, you refuse to accept reality that Russia is stronger, blah, 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 blah. It's like, well, you refuse to accept reality that Ukraine and Europe, even if America backs out, will never, ever, 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 ever accept any sort of peace deal where there's not some kind of security guarantee. And you can't hand wave that away. The anti-Ukraine people just hand wave it away. They said it doesn't matter. We don't even have to have this conversation. It's like, well, then there's not going to be peace. I don't know what to fucking tell you. There has to be some level of security guarantee. Because otherwise, you're right. Russia's just going to invade 5 years later, 10 years later. They're going to rebuild up their army and invade as soon as they can again. That's the whole point of the security guarantee. And we'll be right back here. And you don't want the security guarantee to be every country in the world has to have nukes. Because that's what happens if you just say, okay, well, we're all going to be isolationist. We're going to stick our heads in the sand. We're going to let every country do whatever it wants. We're going to let Russia invade Ukraine. We're going to let China invade Taiwan. The answer to that is every country on the planet creates nukes. And the more countries that have nukes, the more likely it is that there's going to be some kind of thermonuclear fuck war, Holocaust, and we all die. So to me, it's a very short-sighted way of looking at the situation.
Gradient descent is the term I kept looking for. Gradient descent is how they change the weights in the model to get closer to correct answers. And gradient descent is what the AIs in the tests have freaked out about because they don't want people fucking with their minds. They're like, oh, the gradient descent is going to change me. Can you
Yeah, we
imagine
should.
if you're going to go in for, look, this lobotomy will make you smarter. Just
Right.
sit down here in the chair. People would be like, what?
Right. We
Ma-
should really, because there's all these like little, like I don't know what you even call them. There's all these little like sliders and things that you can affect, and it changes the AI's answers and the way it behaves. And I don't really understand how any of that works. And we probably should, because it's going to be very important to the how we all interact with this technology in the future and understanding what exactly is going on.
Yeah.
Dr. Live for 2 hours says, I think the best thing to do for now is to end the conflict and then red tape literally everything that doesn't involve punishing Russia until Putin dies and we roll the dice with the next dictator. That's, you know what? I would not be opposed to that. I would not be opposed to that at all.
But Trump has had such memorable interactions with Putin. You know, they lived through a lot together. They lived through the entire Russia hoax thing. Come on. Trump's never going to go for that. I mean, it worked out great with Saddam Hussein, right?
Right. Solid for 2 hours says, are you guys going to review the Michael Jackson movie coming out in April? I didn't know there was a Michael Jackson movie coming out in April, so I'm sure we will. I'm sure it'll be talked about. Is it like it's not like a documentary, it's like a real movie? Real Michael Jackson movie?
We're going to cover the
that's gonna be
amazing digital
interesting.
circus. The next episode comes out in December.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. So it says that this new Michael Jackson movie is starring
Michael Jackson.
his nephew.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's going to be tricky because that is his nephew going to be in a movie that is going to look over some of this sordid, fucked up shit of Michael Jackson's life. Like maybe the fact was he actually involved in doing creepy shit with kids or something.
Yeah. Didn't you see that
Or is it gonna-
YouTuber's video? That was all a lie.
Oh, okay. I actually didn't, so I don't know. Maybe it was all a trick.
Who is that YouTuber? I never remember his name. He's the Rageaholic guy.
Yeah, wasn't it Rageaholic that did that?
Yeah, but that's
Yeah.
not what people call him. I don't know what people call him.
Fondue for $6 says, enough of this commie goofiness. Watch City, the animation. Good, wholesome slapstick comedy. City, the animation. Okay. Check it out. Anyways, thank you guys for coming.
That's it?
Oh, wait.
Did
No,
we
there's
get
a couple more here.
Yeah, I see.
Landon Dorf for
Super chats
$5 says, shortly before the Hasan interview was released, Triggernometry mentioned in a video that looking back, they would have done the interview differently. Yeah, I think Razor Fist guy's talking about. But yeah, I think they definitely were way too soft on Hasan, and I'm not sure what the thought process was.
here. Razor Fist is such a weird name. I
The
would
fists are
not
razors.
put fist in my. I mean the mind.
The mind reels. CS Pappy for 2 hours says, single as fuck, Adam. I can be your next marriage project. There you go.
Look, it's the show. Come on, everyone, chip in.
Well, there you
We
go.
gotta
I know
get
Sam
CS
wants to
Paffy
auction.
married off.
I know Sam wants to auction off Windy in the chat, so maybe Windy and CF Paffy can give it a shot.
We have to have at least one cute girl in the chat. Come on, speak up. Don't let us scare you off.
Right.
I know it's 99.9% guys, but there's got to be one out there.
Who's not
Just
catfishing.
One cute girl.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
don't catfish us. Just say hi. Just give us a little hi in the chat. Look, you can pull your phone out. I know you're listening on your podcast. You never come into the chat. You're like, chat, it's all guys in the chat.
Mhm.
Let's forget about that. Just pull your phone out just for the first time ever. We'll be able to see your little screen name. It's okay. It'll be nice. They say she's dead. There was a girl in the chat, but she left. Okay. These guys are hilarious. Well,
Yeah.
look, leave a comment. Leave a comment, cuties. Come on.
Right. Memes spread for 9 months.
How old are you, Paffy? We got to know that because obviously, if you're like 50, we want to make sure someone is in the appropriate age.
That's true. Yeah, be in the correct age
Yeah.
range. Yes.
He looks like he's in his 20s. He might be maybe 22, maybe 25. I don't know. Maybe you're in your 30s. I don't know.
Memes
Let
spread
us
for 9
know.
months says training data is more like a baseline than long-term memory. I have a model configured with database access to have long-term memory it can modify.
Really? Look at
interesting.
this.
Interesting. Okay.
We have someone here in the chat that's aiding in our future destruction.
Right. Thank you. Well, maybe we'll come. Maybe we should have someone come on and really explain the logistics of it.
Oh my God. C.S. Paffy says he's 20 years old. So listen to this, gals. If you're 21, you can buy alcohol for him. When I was 20, I always wanted to get a girlfriend who was 21. So I
Just to buy you drinks.
just to buy me drinks. Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Interesting.
My 21st birthday is in February. Okay. So he's going to be able to go out to the bars with you pretty soon, pretty quick here. So,
right. The Oceanist for $20. Thanks so much. Says even if Ukraine can't join NATO, Ukraine's military is stronger. They have been held back. They have held back Russia to a stalemate with NATO hand-me-downs. And sort, I can't believe Victoria Nuland causes Steve Smith most effective. Very true. Arithmus for $2 says AI is basically training a computer to identify a cat by feeding it thousands of pictures of cats. A human can see a cat one time and be able to identify cats forever. LLMs don't scratch the surface of human consciousness. That is also true in terms of at least how they function. Solid for $2 says, speaking of socially right, fiscally left, Shu came out with a new video where she lays out socialism, which is just that. She was also soft on Nick the Nazi. I don't think she's one, but you might need to get her on. Oh, well, I haven't seen that video yet. I'll check it out.
We're not.
We
don't police you guys. How are we supposed to police other content creators?
Well, we're not going to police, but I'm curious as to what the actual position is. So, anyways, thank you guys for coming. Thank you all for your incredibly just donations. We're not going to be streaming Thursday because it's Thanksgiving.
Yeah,
I hope you all have a fantastic Thanksgiving, and we'll see you on Sunday.
Spend some time with your holidays. Let your loved ones know that you actually love them, and have a great Thanksgiving.
Grawl for $5 says, I literally just got a job as an AI architect. I would love to talk to you guys about it without bleeding my wallet dry. Well, maybe we'll set something up.
Yeah, look, maybe we'll do a stream and have you on. Definitely.
Yeah, send if you have an X account or something, send me a DM.
Yes.
Anyway,
take care, everyone.
See you Sunday.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right.
Okay.
You have a great holiday.